Oh! Holy crap, we're already in Platinum League? No way! Oh, that was quick. Oh, awesome. All right, guys. So we're gonna try and get the habit of a few of these little build order things again. I am sorry. Doing bronze to GM. So sadly, yes. We are speedrunning it. That's gonna go there, then there. It sucks. Normally we don't hit the same person more than once. Normally climb so fast, don't hit the same people much. Only time doing this, just for teaching. I feel so bad, I'm so defensive, guys. Oh my god. I fucking hate smurfing. Poor cheeseburger. Anyways, good luck, have fun. Feels bad, man. Alright, put guys on gas, put guys on gas. Oh, we didn't start a queen. I didn't realize the pool was done. 2 lings, let's get an overlord. So this time we've actually queued our second overlord across the map, which is cool. So we're gonna have to do overlord, overlord, overlord. I agree. However, the games are fun though, I guess. Well, good on you, cheeseburger, for taking it well. I've never wanted to do bronze to GM because I don't like, you know, ruining people's ladder experience. But I was like, you know what? People have requested it for so long. I'll finally cave and do it as a reward for hitting that big subathon goal. And now I still feel so bad. I'm like, oh man. But we're blitzing through it. It's amazing that we hit him 3 times with how quick we're climbing. It really is. It really is amazing. Now on this map, 2 exits again. So let's put a Zergling down each one of those. Keep building drones. And so we've got 1 overlord out here. We've got another overlord that can go down there. So we get the 3 overlords out front. And then we get 1 down there on the edge and 1 up there on the edge. Tap the hatcheries, build drones. Keep an eye on our money, our supply. Tap the hatcheries, build drones. Time to inject? No, because it's our first inject. Wait for it. Inject, inject. Build overlord. Click it down there out front of the 3rd base. We can look at the front and we can see it's a quick expansion from my opponent. Keep building drones. Hey, it's 36 supply, so roach warren. Awesome. Keep building drones, keep building drones. We can, if we want, run our Zergling around, but nothing to see there. We can get our overlord ready. I could queue it. I can say, you move there, then go for the sacrifice. Would be cool. So that way I'm queuing it ahead of time, so I don't need to look at it at 3:45 to go. Inject, inject. Build drones, and we're going to build our last 2 overlords. 1 on the top edge. Reselect the hatchery, build overlord, right click down there, 1 on the bottom edge below the 3rd base. So we have our full ring of vision up now. Build a few more drones. Let's get that 3rd queen. Let's get a 3rd hatchery. And what do we do next, guys? You guys know the drill. Lair and gases. Now, one thing we can do, if we want to use a different technique, is you can change the rally point at this point so that the drones automatically are close to where they need to go. You see a robo, a gateway, lots of basic ground units. So just once again, very similar kind of ground composition. Build lots of drones, lots of overlords. Our overlords can just go to the back now. So the advantage of changing that rally point in the main temporarily is these drones will replenish the ones I just put on gas. And these drones will replenish these guys that I'm putting on gas. So you see that way, it kind of balances out. We're going to take our creep queen, put it on its creep queen control group, and spread creep. And we can go, oh yeah, we'll build maybe 1 more drone there, build a few more overlords, and then what are we doing, guys? Nothing but making roaches. Inject, inject, build roaches, build roaches. Let's build 1 more pair of lings as those backup scouts that we want to get used to always having. Now, What if I'm worried about DTs? Remember, let's say you guys are super paranoid. Don't you dare ever build spores before that time unless you have a good reason to. But I will allow it at 445. So I will handicap my own economy. Even though I've seen lots of sentries, stalkers, and a robo, no twilight guns, I will build safety spores just to handicap myself. Inject, inject. This is a fire alarm test. This is a fire alarm test. Why do you need to do this every month? I don't understand. Why do you need to do it every month? You don't need to test a fire alarm every month. It works. It works. Stop. Stop. What do we do between macro cycles, guys? We look at our map vision. Ooh, we lost this Zergling. Let's see. And then we spread our overlords around. Let's make that overseer. Replace that overlord. And then spread creep, which we already did. So notice the way I always try to spread creep with a system from one side to the next, guys. Macro cycle, inject, inject. That's the creep queen. Not inject. Yeah. So build roaches, build some more overlords, click those to the back. Overlords, overlords, overlords. And then we can do other things. We can spread creep, whether you do that immediately after a macro cycle or just in amongst other things, not too important. We see a third base, okay. Got these Zerglings. Let's take a look at our opponent's army. We're still tapping and building some overlords. Oh, they've got a disruptor. That's really good versus what we've got. Cool. Oh, okay. So if we know that our opponent has a disruptor, we're going to use fancy tactics. We're going to put 13 roaches on a control group. Inject, inject, more roaches. 13. It was just about half of the army I had, and the other army is going to come down here. Oh, let's try and bring this overseer back. We'll add that to my army pool. We'll click the changeling on his army. So we're going to try and do a two-pronged attack. And while we're moving across, remember guys, what are we doing? Evo, Hydroden. Build some drones to replace the ones in the main, and then rally to the third. We could actually dump a few injects in there if we want. Inject, inject. And we want to build drones behind this. So creep, creep, creep. Creep, creep, creep. We'll build drones. But the Evo chambers are not key. Okay, so these guys are going to distract our opponent. So the distraction's going to go in first, and then these guys are going to come in just afterwards. Okay, so we click these guys in. And now they run away, and then these guys run. Oh. Oh no! No! And now we can A-move in a pretty good spot. Now obviously, if we could do some spreadies, that would be even better. But we're just going to leave them there. Build 3 drones, click on gas, build 3 drones, click on gas, build some more drones. Let's go back. How are our roaches doing? Not great, they're not all fighting, are they? And actually, those guys are still alive! Let's see if we can kill some more stuff with them. Now this was a really advanced swap. This was a really advanced change. But I was talking about how it would be fun to try this out. And by the way, disruptors are really important. So let's focus fire them, shall we? Let's focus fire them. I was talking about how doing a multi-prong would be really fun. And we decided not to do it yet. But disruptors, I think, was a perfect thing here today to say, well, if your opponent has one big splash damage unit, or spellcasters, or something that's hard to engage into, you don't really want to just shove all of your units into that head first, do you? So how can we adjust what we're doing to make it harder for our opponent, make it easier for us? And we didn't have to do too much fancy micro there. It was more just the fact, grab the excess drones from the main. So we're both transferring our drones. By the way, check this out, guys. Oversaturated. So I've said, let's do 2 things at once. Take all the extra drones, send them to the 4th, and take a hatchery and the gases. So we're batching up, transferring workers with taking gases, with taking hatchery all at once. You wouldn't do this at the start of the game. You would do it now. Why? You've got more important things to focus on. Inject, inject, inject. Roaches and hydras on the way. We can... This is a good scout, by the way. If you guys don't have any Zerglings especially, always just grab your thing, drop as many changelings, and you can go shift click, and that can give you some good stuff. Keep building roaches. We can transfer these guys. We can put on gas. We can add that to our control group. We can set all the rally points there. And, oh, look at that. We start 2-2. And, oh, another hydro upgrade I forgot to start. Inject, inject, inject. Build roaches. And we actually went higher on drones than we normally do. Remember, it's meant to be 55 to 60. We went right up to 63. That's okay. Sometimes you over-drone while there's action happening, right? Now that was a bit bad. I went creep there, then creep there, then creep there. I like to do it one directional, top to bottom, left to right, something like that, just so it's more rhythmic with creep spread rather than... I like rhythmic over chaos, you know? And notice a few tumors would be nice to spread it out, but you don't want to overcomplicate it. If you just have 3 creep tumors, but you actually spread them regularly, you're already doing so much better than most players. So guys, let's go for it. Now, I don't have any... Oh, there's no disruptors. This is a scary ramp to fight on, so let's try and move command forwards here. So we're going to try and headbutt this ramp. This is a pretty awful fight, right? This doesn't make a lot of sense. Number 1, if there was disruptors, terrible area to engage. Number 2, force fields. Great on that ramp. So that was a perfect example. What would have been way better there would have been grab half the army, Alt 3, and then I could have had half the army here, half the army here. And then I could have attacked with both at the same time. Just doing that would have made that fight infinitely better. And this is something, the bigger your armies get, the more necessary it is to do this. No matter what your composition is, you need to split your army in half. If you don't split your army in half, you're just making life harder for you. The number of people I see, especially these people who build 90 drones every game and never actually go across the map, right? What do they end up doing? They end up running this blob around like this, and they're panicking, and they're right-clicking on single units. The bigger the fight gets, the more, once the fight starts, you don't really want to be using the whole control group at all. You do not want to build it at all. Because that's just going to be fucking terrible, man. Why are you doing that? No, if you want a micro, you box some units, you grab them, and you click on a disruptor. You don't tell the guys in the back to click on a disruptor over here, right? So the bigger a fight gets, the more you're better off. And if you want to make it really easy, do what I did. Split your army up and just attack 2 different locations. And people are like, but I can't multitask. It's too hard, pig. It's not multitasking. You A, move them both, and then all you do is you just look at which one they come to fight, and you run that one away, right? In this one, I did it kind of like that, right? Let's go look at that first attack, and I want to show you guys exactly what happened, because this is not crazy multitasking. Do I do it a little bit faster, a little bit more fluidly than you at first? Yes, but with a bit of basic growth. I ran in with these guys first. He moves to respond, and what do, guys? I run them away. And I don't click them here. So whenever I teach people this, they always do this. They go, click here, and then they go look away. I'm like, what are you doing? That's not running away. Click them properly back. Even there, I should have clicked it back here. I should have clicked on my minimap, run 2 screens back. Disengage them from the situation so you don't need to think about them at all. They are cleared from your mind for at least a moment at this point, okay? So that's all you need to do. If their army comes to one side, disengage that side completely, and then micro your other side. Whether that's run in and just split into both mineral lines and kill as many probes as you can, whatever it is, however you want to choose to take that fight. But the other side, if you've got good awareness, you're like, oh, okay, now that I've microed these guys for a bit, you don't even need to look at it. You just select your other control group and move it back to that base. You don't even micro it, and it's going to get shit done. That is not crazy multitasking, but once you get bigger and bigger armies, you really need to micro a little bit like this. Just set your units up a little better, and you will absolutely destroy them. All right, we're already to Plat 2, guys. Quickest bronze to GM ever. Please dodge burger. I mean, I didn't check. Maybe I should check. I can actually check if I want, guys. So we could check. Burger is not searching game right now, so that's what you do. That's good. That means we shouldn't hit burger. Cheeseburger's gone offline. That's good. So this, someone was saying before, so this build would crumble to early pressure. We're Zerg, so we are playing reactively. If our opponent comes at us early, our overlord, our Zerglings will see this. So there's a reactive branch. If you see they're only on one base, you will react. Are you on Western, says Triple Helix. I am just on best match, I believe. Because that does actually affect, doesn't it? Oh, I can't do it in game menu. That's cool. A Terran, so we got a non-Protoss for once. That's cool. So if our opponent doesn't expand, we have a reaction. And we also have, if our opponent builds units, we can pump Zerglings reactively. So it does rely on a little bit of map awareness, but if we see our opponent flooding out with Zerglings, we should be able to react in time, get queens on the ramp, that sort of thing. So Overlord here, once again, Q over there next to the main ready to sacrifice. First Overlord is just going to go sit above the pillar. I just played versus someone who made me go up to 1600 MS when fighting. Watch out in the ladder in lower leagues. I don't think you could possibly do that, Grannis. It just sounds like your internet spiked. Because it's all server-side stuff. So there's no way they could change your ping. They could make it lag spike. I don't think there's any way they could screw up your connection to the server, mate. I don't think that's possible. Maybe. I'm not, you know, super tech expert. I'm sure there's things that are outside the realm of possibility, but I've never heard of anything like that before. So I'm pretty sure that would have to be your internet just happened to spike a few times during battles or something like that. It'd be weird if it happened during every fight, but it is what it is. So we're going to take these drones, put them on gas. We're going to start our queen. All right. Build 2 Zerglings. Across the map. SCV scouts here. It's all right. Build an Overlord. So the Overlords can now go outside our base. We'll put one down here, then one out here, and then one out here. So these 2 Zerglings can just go across the map to scout. Keep building drones. Now, Terran could Reaper us. This looks like a real standard Terran build. Guys, we might be getting to the point of a ladder where people are playing real builds. So we're going to make a small adjustment. We're going to leave the queen here just for a moment longer. Oh, that's okay. There's a Reaper at home. I was going to say, just wait till the other queen's almost finished before sending her down. But it's all fine. The Reaper stayed at home, so we should be good. So these Zerglings, I'm like, hey, that's an exposed command center. Let's see if we can kill that. So we're just going to click that and then build Overlord here, build Overlord here, drones. And obviously the Lings are going to die. We click on the Marine there. And we forgot to change our rally point, guys. Ooh, we got a little bit preoccupied. Inject, inject. So we've changed our rally point to the natural now. Still building drones. And we see extra Marines up there. Which tells us it's probably not a Hellion opening. He's also forgot to put back on his command center. There we go. Let's focus on our build though. Let's not get distracted by idle musings and whatnot. Let's put that Roach Warren down since we're almost at 36 supply. Build drones. And time for macro cycle. Inject, inject. Build drones and build an Overlord, which we can put down below the main. And put in the drones. Let's replace our Zerglings, guys. So we're going to get 2 more Zerglings, put them across the map. It's almost 3:45, so let's cue this Overlord to move to the side and then come on through. Let's build another Overlord, put up there, a few more drones. And remember what I said, let's try that rally point change. Change the rally point here so they automatically go to the right place. Take that 3rd base, now we're at 44 supply. And time for another macro cycle. Inject, inject, build some drones. Lots of drones actually, we've got plenty of free supply. Or do we? We're gonna lose an Overlord, maybe not. And you see, that's a very quick 3rd command center. And a factory on Attack Lab means tanks. So, sign of greed, sign of defense. Let's take gases, layer, and that 3rd queen. Let's control group that, send to the camera location, and time for another macro cycle. Lots more drones and Overlords. I might have built too many drones this time. Let's see what happens when we put those guys on there, those guys on there, those guys on there. And you can see if we hover over 48, that's more than enough for 2 base. So we can go into roach production. Now there's a Reaper. Let's not panic. If you want to be super pro, you can do a Spore Crawler trick. Let's not bother. Let's just A-move the queen at it. A-move our other queen to intercept it. We say, oh, you're going that way, aren't you? My man! There we go. Inject. Inject. Build roachies. Now, if your opponent's building tanks and putting them on high ground and behind walls and stuff, that's going to be pretty good at defending roach tanks, guys. Is my strategy just bad here? Well, it just might be. We're gonna have to wait and see. Let's make roach speed. Is it gonna be bad? Should we change it? No! We're just gonna, if our opponent doesn't come out on the map, we're not gonna attack into a really bad position. Now, here's a little adjustment. Let's make an overseer so that can come with our roaches and it can spot the high ground. Inject, inject. And roaches still just massing roaches. So we're very committed to what is a giant roach attack. Don't get me wrong, guys. In between this, we'll spread creep. We've got, what, 2 tumors there, right? So we can put a tumor over to the left as well. As soon as we get that energy, build a few more overlords while we're waiting. What do our Zerglings say? Have you taken a third yet? Still haven't taken your third. It's fine. We're gonna make a changeling. Click that in his base. And inject, inject. Build the roaches! And build overlords. Click those to the back. And we're still just doing this. Now, the trick is, if we do just throw our roaches into a wall-off, it's not going to be great. Wall-off of tanks. Could we do it? Yeah. If he moves out to the third base in the open, we can get him. If his tanks are up there, there's no way we're getting to those. Unless we use... Oh my god, is it time we use Ravagers? Is it... Are we allowed to use Ravagers? Well... I mean, we could. There's no reason why not. Inject, inject, make roaches. Do we want to? Is he taking the other third base? Where's his third? Let's move our roaches over to a staging point here. Build some more Ogies. Looks like he's still just sitting there. So, yeah, I mean, we could use it for sure. Now, I actually don't use rapid fire very much with that, but it's definitely something. Either way, let's just do our normal strategy, shall we? So behind this, what are we doing, guys? We're droning up the third base. And, oh my, we're getting... Whoa! Pull the drones. Oh, this is fantastic. Build a spore, build a spore, build a spore. Roaches can A-move here. Oh my god. Queen, we're going to go move there, shift, A-move. Okay? Roaches, we're going to go A-move, and we're going to split roaches into every base. Some in the main as well. And guess what, guys? In the midst of all this, we're going to build 3 queens since we lost some. And we're going to keep building drones. Oh, and our spore died up here apparently. So let's make upgrades now. He's actually just held me attack, hasn't he? Or has he? Haha! Now, all my roaches are still on my control group, so if I pull that, that's kind of sloppy, guys. Pull the drones. Don't click on the minerals. Don't do that pro gamer shit, guys. Don't you dare do that pro gamer shit. Now let's go across the map and see if we can kill him. Let's rebuild the drones in there. Inject, inject, and inject. And that means these 2 are creep queens. Oh, I still had a creep queen. I didn't even use it. I've been so used to not having a creep queen, and that would have been the perfect moment to. Oh, look at me being a giant noob. Well, guess what, guys? We've got all the drones we need. Let's just put guys on gas straight away. And he still hasn't moved out to take a third. What the hell, man? Can you come out so I can kill you? That's when my roaches become good. Oh, cool. He's coming out. Okay. I'm like, what an ass. I'm like, come out so I can kill you, please. What the hell? We'll take a 4th base straight away because that's just a good thing to do. Look at him being fancy with his liberator. We're going to start building hydras now as well. And look at this. He's coming out into the open. So we don't want to attack all from one side. We want to attack up 2 ramps at once. And let's go for it. See what we can do. Oh, his army's out in the open. Oh, let's send some roaches off to the left. And looks like we're doing some pretty sick damage. Awesome. Building hydras behind this. Grab the spore, move it. Grab the drones should actually probably be the first. We're going to go over that as a reaction list in a moment. Move some hydras over. I don't really care if I lose these roaches. So I think we're just going to F2 A move. Inject. 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 And we're going to build a round of drones. The reason we're building drones is because our opponent's really turtly. So this game is probably going to go longer. It's also because we just lost some drones. So we're kind of replacing those. Now you can see we're getting pretty wasteful at this point, right? Let's kill that liberator. And let's just back out of it. That's pretty close. I didn't mind throwing the roach there. I don't want to throw my hydras away. But I don't know. So we'll make range, we'll make carapace. We'll take half these drones, send them to the fourth, take the gases at the same time. Notice as the game progresses, I never just main our drones. I take a base, take gases. I always do more than one thing at once because you've got too much to focus on otherwise, guys. StarCraft's really stressful. If you're like, click drone, build hatchery, come back, build gas. No. If I want to expand at this point in the game, guys, this is how I do it. I grab... One action, two bases. Or I might even do it even more. I might even take the gases as well if I want to be really crazy. But because I don't have the biggest economy, we're only at 63 drones. It's a fantastic economy for Platinum League. Why are we putting on gas, by the way? Think about it. We've got too much gas. Don't need it. Minerals is more important right now. Inject, inject, inject. And let's build some more roachies to tank for our hydras. And we don't have any scouting, so let's build some overlords. Overlord to the far left. Actually, we're already at 200 supply, so I could have just used these guys. If you want to do the poo micro, we grab some overlords, we go tell them to do a poo, and then we go right click, shift, hold position. Whatever your hold position button is. Right click, shift, hold position. It's so loud! I'm sorry. I don't want deaf people to die, but if it needs to not be so insanely loud, can we do that? Can we make it a little bit quieter so it doesn't give us fucking hearing damage every single time? Let's go for an attack, guys. So our army's a bit clumped up. What did we talk about earlier? Let's get more overseers because we just almost lost one to a Widow Mine. We want to attack up both ramps at once. So Hydras are just moving up multiple ramps. Looks like they didn't get the muscular augments. Or Hydra's always that slow. I guess Hydras are always that slow off creep. They look so bad. My opponent's actually doing some sick little defensive micro and stuff. Now, in this sort of scenario, where's our Overseer? We lost our Overseer to the Widow Mines. Which is why we need those extra Overseers to hurry up and get here, because we can't see the Widow Mines, and we also couldn't see the tank on the high ground. So in that scenario, you need to kind of run onto the ramp with at least some units so you can actually see the tanks on the high ground. Now, you could make Ravagers, and they're a really good unit, so it's just personal preference. I would rather save my gas for Hydras, because they're a more reliable unit, and it just means your army is less expensive, so if you do throw your Roaches away, it's not as big of a deal. If you throw your Ravagers away, it's like, ooh. Now, don't get me wrong. When you guys see me super competitive on the ladder, I do make Ravagers, and I do like to cast Corrosive Bile and use that spell. But if I'm planning to play Roach Hydra anyway, I'm just not as focused on that. Because Hydras just do a lot more consistent damage. They attack once every 0.59 seconds. So they attack more, basically twice as much as a Ravager. And they're not as chunky. The Ravagers kind of block your army. So they kind of get your army stuck behind them a little bit. They also only have 25 less hit points than a Roach. A Roach has 145, a Ravager is 120. And yet they cost 100 gas, 50 more gas than a Hydra. GG's. Let's go back and review a little bit, and you guys can ask me any questions, and we can kind of see what's going on here. But today, we talked a lot about habits, tapping a unit production while doing other things, knowing what unit you're building, so it's automatic. You just build drones, tap drones, or tap roaches, right? So that's kind of what you want to do. You also want to look at your money and supply as you do a macro cycle, guys. So if you've got too much money, make macro hatches. If you've got too little supply gap, extra overlords, too big a supply gap, skip overlords this cycle. So go around and check your bases as well is something you want to try and do. That should be down here. Yeah, that's here. You'll still have to, so what do you do in between your macro cycles? After, I should say in between. In between macro cycles. Memorize your build order better, so you know intuitively when your buildings are going down, right? You'll still have downtime, right? Other than just putting down your next Roachhorn or moving drones around as you get quicker at it. So go through your bases using camera locations, check your saturation, replace missing drones, start upgrades. The Roachhorn, got to start that. Put your workers on gas. You can also poke with units. You can look at your scouts, right? You can just looking at your overlords and glancing at your spotters is nice. Like that gives you vision. Send in a Zergling. See what their army comp looks like. Adjust your spotters on the map. If you go, oh, I don't have spotters, build those Zerglings that I was just rallying out in different pairs and not putting them on any control groups. Do a Ling Run by if you really want. Check the minimap. Whenever you do consistent tasks like macro, your eyes should try to glance to that minimap. This is something you get better at over time. Try to just glance at it between tasks. And that should be kind of your comfort zone as a Zerg. So we haven't played against many aggressive players. This is the nature of ladder. Even when people say they die to cheeses, most of them are very late and very poorly executed rushes for the most part. To the point where if you fix up your early game, you're just going to have twice their economy and still hold their rush because you're just doing your tasks, your macro, cleaner than your opponent. But in general, as you get better, you're going to face faster and better rushes, tighter rushes, cheeses, proxies, all-ins. What does all that mean? It just means people attacking you before you would automatically build units. But that's where your map vision comes in. And if you see them coming across the map with your Zerglings, or you see that they don't have a natural when you look at your minimap and your overlord sitting over their natural and they don't have it, we do that reaction. Remember, 3 minutes 30, we build a lot of units and we start, oh, my opponent hasn't expanded. Let's make a lot of things to make sure we're safe and try to figure out exactly what they're doing so we can adapt as needed. Or you see units come out at a surprising moment and you're like, well, I need to build my extra gases and 10 more drones. No, you just start building Zerglings and roaches and whatever you can to survive, right? So there is some inherent flexibility in StarCraft. Now people say, but I don't always see them move out. Sometimes I die. And I go, yeah, that's StarCraft. You'll miss it sometimes. You'll die. They go, well, no. And people's default mode is to go, I can never die to that again. I'm just going to build roaches 2 minutes into the game to be safe. And they hamstring their economy and they put themselves in a corner of never growing fast enough to be a good StarCraft player because I'm not good enough at watching them out. You know, it's great punishment losing a game and not seeing an attack coming and dying to it, or getting, you know, and the problem as well is I think for a lot of people who get stuck, especially if they're kind of around Silver League, it's like, oh man, I die to the attack and it's just because I'm not fast enough to react. And usually without fail, there's a supply block in there. The spawning pool's 20 seconds late for no reason. Even in Gold and Platinum, I regularly see people make massive mistakes with early supply blocks and things that are actually the cause of what gets them killed. So go back and check your build and actually check that you did your things right. So never take it for granted that you played properly because you didn't. Because even GMs and pros F up their openings all the time. What happens when you look at Lambo pouring through a replay or a procast? He's like, oh, he missed this overlord and that screwed up this and this, and that's why he died to this push. It's really about realizing that there is an infinite amount of improvement you can do within your own zone, and that you will layer some reactions and things on top of that. But it's definitely an issue. I will never lose to that build from that silver player ever again, because I'm going to build spine crawlers at the front of my base at the start. That's what a lot of people do, yes. You see it, a lot of people just making tons of static defense. And people always ask me, well, where is the static defense in your play here? And I say, don't build static defense, it's static. StarCraft is not a static game, it's a game with your units. It's like, I have my base defended, cool. Well, how are you going to use that static defense to secure a third base? What if they drop in your main? Is the spine crawler in your natural going to help you in the main? But no, it's by its very nature. While static defense is very cost effective, it's not mobile, it's not flexible, and it's something which is just a bad habit to get in the hang of. Instead, we want to learn how to have good map vision and how to build army at the right time. And that's going to be really awesome. We check the minimap a lot. We also added a few details to our build order today. We got more map vision continually with Zerglings. We had backup Zergling spotters as well as the two outside the base. We had second Overlord sacrificing into their main just to get a glimpse of what was going on. And what we were starting to do again, you noticed again, I was going signs of greed, signs of aggression. That last game, remember what did we see? We saw a quick third command center, big sign of greed. If I saw 4 barracks pumping out units, I would have been like, big sign of aggression. In one of the games, we came through the main, we scouted like 8 gateways. I was like, big sign of aggression. There's no forges, no twilight. It was just mass gateways and a robo, and they were just going to throw a big army at me, right? It was all production. If there was a third nexus, 2 forges, and a twilight council, as well as the robo, those would all be things that are going to the next step of the game. So that's kind of the general category we've introduced you guys to. We're going to talk a lot more about scouting in our next session. Where are we up to, by the way? Plat 1, is it? Plat 2? Okay, I'm Plat 2. So we're in Plat 2. So Next session, Plat 2 plus. Okay, so we're going to talk more about scouting. And we're going to talk about greed, signs of greed versus aggression. That's what we're going to talk about. What else are we going to talk about? And shout out your suggestions. What have we missed? What have we not talked about yet? Shout them out in chat, guys. So signs of greed versus aggression is a big one. Understanding what a normal, optimal opening is, a normal build looks like. We can kind of talk. We can touch on understanding what a normal build looks like because we're not quite there yet. We're still going to play against a lot of just ridiculous openings. Signs of greed versus signs of aggression. We've already talked mostly about map control, and that is the base layer of scouting. That's most important. And yeah, signs of greed, signs of aggression, touch on understanding what a normal build looks like. I think we're gonna split the army consistently for our Roach Hydra attack. Oh, you know what? We'll even do it 5 Roach run by whilst distracting with main army for first push. So we'll try and do even a 5 Roach run by with the first push if we can. We're gonna try and do a Roach Hydra attack split in 2 pieces always. Split the army consistently. So that's gonna be really sick. Other than that, yeah. More creep spread flow, more creep spread consistently, right? That's gonna be cool. Yeah, I think there's nothing wrong with the game plan by any means. Maybe we'll talk about when to, or if we choose to go straight to double evo and hydras and think of the roaches more defensively. I would say when to. Yeah, let's say when to. So when to go straight to double evo and hydras and use the roaches more defensively. Previous session, game versus Void Ray. 2-star Void Ray was a good example, right? Where we said, okay, these roaches are just there to backstab our opponent when the Void Rays come across, and we swap to drones and then hydras, right? What about Overlord spread? We've talked about Overlord spread from early on, Ryan. From the very start, I mean, like, spread those Overlords, dickheads. So we've been good about that. Is it time to talk about compositions? Like, Mass Hydras might not be good against tanks. No, it's great. Nope. Nah, Roach Hydra beats everything. Yeah, it's an amazing composition. Someone said, how do I beat Bio Tank with Roaches? Because I think I'm using Mutas as a crutch right now. Oh, Roaches crush tanks, yeah. Technically, tanks are good if they're all sieged up in a good position. But Bio doesn't beat Roaches. It's only if your opponent has really, really super sick macro. And even then, they need to do very particular adjustments. Where we cast Raynor beating Clem yesterday with Roaches first Bio. Now, he didn't have tanks, he had Widow Mines. Kind of surprised him with it. This is super optimal play. So the thing is, it's not going to be when should you do other units, it's how to use these units in different situations. So there is a good question. Pig, when will we use Mutiling Bane? Ooh, that's a fucking exciting prospect. Diamond. When we get to Diamond 3, we are going to swap styles. We're going to say, let's do a completely drastically different style and play Mutiling Bane in every matchup. Is that because I think you guys should do that in Diamond? No, not necessarily. I just think it's going to be a good time for us to swap around and have fun with a different style and learn the basics. I don't think Diamonds can play Mutiling Bane, says Ryan. So Ryan there in chat is gatekeeping like a motherfucker. This is so fucking stupid when people say this sort of shit. They're like, you can't. No. You can play Mutas in Bronze League and Silver League. Should you maybe get the hang of the Muta Micro while only doing 1-base Mutas? Maybe, yes, you might want to start a 1-base Muta to get the hang of it. But no, he says, to be honest, I don't think Masters can even do Mutiling Bane. I mean, I think there's a lot of players who don't play StarCraft very well, for sure. But Mutiling Bane is a fantastic style, and it's going to teach us even more techniques for macro hatches earlier, more bases earlier, how to really stack injects up a lot more, because that's going to be really important. That's going to be cool. Stacking injects. So that's going to be kind of diamond 2 maybe. So that's going to be diamond 2. That's when we use Mutiling Bane. And we'll swap it around. So we're going to stack injects, more macro hatches. More run-bys and backstabs. Because it's a literal necessity. You can't fight front on a lot of the time. But there's no such thing. I do think you could go to GM and beyond with Roach Hydra. We're not swapping to Lingbane Muta because we need to. It's because it opens up more learning opportunities. Yeah. I think the main thing is, how to engage certain armies. How to engage different armies. Oh, we forgot to talk about reaction lists today. That's what we didn't get to. Okay, we're going to talk about reaction lists in detail. Okay, that's going to be a big focus of the next session, guys. That's what we didn't get to today. That's really important. For instance, when the Liberator came in, there was a whole bunch of deep set reaction lists, set plays. I'm going to call it reaction list set plays. I think set plays is just a better word for it. Reaction lists is how we form a set play, which is why I talk about it. But the example of like the Liberator coming in, I have things that I have programmed into and memorized and practiced in-game. And it's not that I've sat there grinding it in isolation. It's that I died to some shit. I wrote down exactly what I needed to do in steps for the next time. And then I tried to do it the next time and I still stumbled over my feet and messed it up. But I went back to the little write-up and I went, do that in that order. And I look at the replay and I visualize doing that. Yeah. Visualized practice. Visualized replay practice. That's huge. So that's one of the best ways you can learn without having to actually play a situation. It's replaying. If you look at a replay of, say, a Liberator come in and you look at yourself doing all the wrong things, you go back to the moment in that replay when you see the Liberator come in and you pause on that moment. And we'll go over this in more detail in the next session. But basically, you pause on that moment where the Liberator comes in and you say, okay, I'm going to imagine in my head, I'm going to visualize I'm in this game. I am in my shoes. What do I do differently? And you've written it out on an exact list. And you go, okay, I would select the drones, pull them from the Liberator, build a Spore Crawler, get my Queen, shift-click that around the Liberator, go to my other bases, build spores in case the Liberator rotates, and then I would continue macroing, inject, build units so that I'm not distracted and I'm not taking more damage because of the distraction. And then I would go back and check my Queen is actually not dying to the Liberator, move my Spore Crawler, And then I would repeat that a few times in my brain. Okay, imagine I've just seen the Liberator, pull the drones, do. And this is something where you're teaching yourself to imagine the situation so that your brain becomes a perfect simulation machine that allows you to practice it over and over again. And this is why you'll see someone practicing their guitar, their chords or their hand position without actually having a guitar in their hand. They'll practice fucking whatever weird skill it is that they're learning. With their eyes closed, right? And people do this with all sorts of things. And if you can learn to do that with shadowboxing, right? There's no one actually punching at you, but you're kind of imagining someone's punching at you and how you would move to slip a punch or fucking block it or whatever or anything like that, right? So that's like a really good system because people are like, oh man, I don't get enough repetitions. StarCraft is so hard to find the same situation again. So being able to study the replays for that is actually this like game changer, super advanced, but we're going to introduce it. More importantly, we're just going to talk about finding problem points in your play where you don't know what the fuck to do, writing out a little mini set play for that situation so that you've got something to kind of learn and improve on next time. Awesome. All right, guys, I think that sums us up. We've got a little bit of a goal for Mutiling Bane down the track as a really fun mobile style. We're still going to do a lot more. We're going to start understanding scouting more. We're going to start talking about how to split the army consistently, how to spread creep a bit more. We're going to look a bit more at specific games of why we swap straight to the Hydra mid-game, some games, whereas other games we just go all in with the roaches. We're going to look at how to engage versus different armies, right? So I guess how do we do this? A few examples. Siege armies, engage from multiple flanks in the open, ambush when they're moving out, that sort of stuff. Concave management in ranged versus ranged. stutter step forwards in overwhelming opponent, the enemy, right? Stutter step back versus melee. Mass charge or mass sling. We did that today versus the mass charge immortal. You guys remember? We stutter step backwards in that game. Whereas we normally stutter step forwards to get on top of their stalkers and colossus and stuff like that. So what is the difference there is when you've got the shorter range units, you want to get on top of them quickly. Whereas when you've got the longer range units, you want to fall back. So we'll go over those two things. So you can apply that to any scenario. Yeah, ambush them when they're moving out and unsieged is a huge game changer. People are like, my army doesn't beat the tanks. And it's like, yeah, if you run into a wall of tanks, but you wait for those tanks to unsieged and move out like we did in that game where the guy had all the tanks move over to the third. And I just jumped, I killed like 6 tanks basically for free. And that was what made the rest of the game so easy. If I attacked into my opponent's natural in that game, it wouldn't have been great. Now, a lot of people might be like, whoa, okay, we're already getting deep. Now that we've covered so many fundamentals, we're already going to start to get deeper and deeper into each game is its own learning little algorithm, little fucking scenario that we can go deep on. And we're going to reiterate and develop rules, but no rule is hard and fast in StarCraft. Every single rule, there is always something that can make the rule not apply. These rules are good because they allow us to bring some structure to the ever-diverse game that is StarCraft. At the same time, if you're like, my rule didn't work. Rule broken. That's going to lead to bad StarCraft play. Why? Because this comes back to the very first thing I said on day 1 of Bronze to GM. You have to switch it on. You have to think critically. If you don't think critically, and if you don't break down situations individually, and you're not curious to understand why didn't the rule apply, you're not going to become a better StarCraft player in the long run. You're going to hit a skill cap where you go, I can't just follow other people's rules. I can't just do builds that other people tell me to do. And it won't be as interesting. So always try to understand things on a fundamental level when they don't make sense. Always be curious, always seek the freaking answers, and you're gonna get way better as a player. Guys, we got ourselves another Zerg vs Protoss. So many Protoss players lately. All right, so setting up our camera locations. We've already sent our first Overlord across the map, set our rally point down there. This guy is just gonna go to the pillar. Second Overlord is going to go to the natural and then to our sacrifice spot over there. And, oh, look at that. We doubled up the worker. Isn't that nice? I don't think it's ever too... I mean, I kept saying up to now it's not worth, like, it's not the most important thing. It isn't. But at the same time, if you've got free time, if you're starting to feel more comfortable in the opening, you're hitting it really well, you can start doing things like this. I built 2 drones and then I click one there and I click one there. Why do those patches? Because there's only one on each of those patches already. So why the heck not? I take one of them to build the spawning pool, 17 pool anyway. But it's just a little habit. You'll see pro gamers, high level players just doing little things like that, just spreading them out. Now let's attack that. Why are we attacking that, guys? Because he could cannon rush us. So we always just attack a probe whenever it's in our base. And if he leaves, we can send it away. Now a cool little habit is when you first tell that to attack, what we can do is we can put this on my second army group. So look, he's leaving. Okay, that's fine. We could just go back to mining. 17 hatch, 17 pool. 17 pool, 17 hatch, 17 gas. Set our rally points here. And super chill. So then we want to build a queen. We're going to build just 2 zerglings to start. And then, of course, we need our overlord. Now we can start putting on gas straight away. Why? We're already saturated. And let's build that overlord. So remember, ring of vision, guys. So I'm going to put an overlord out here to start. Let's build 1 more drone. And what we're doing is we're saying, look, we're 15 out of 16. So rally it there and then select all my hatcheries. Rally to the natural. And that way, all the new drones are automatically going to where they are needed. So we're just trying to automate things. Now, because I see there's actually no unit here. That's weird. I could get super advanced at this point and go, hey, you don't have a wall if you don't have a unit. Let's kill the probe and get in and scout with those zerglings. Now, I'm already going to build 2 more zerglings and send them across the map. We're going to make ling speed. I don't want a tunnel vision on this, okay? I've queued them. We killed the probe. We can run those in. That's fine. Build the next overlord. Put it over here. We've got to complete that ring of vision. And we see no tech, but lots of pylons. So my opponent hasn't built any tech, and if we can do a bit of in and out, that's going to be great. Now, this is already taking up too much attention. So, macro cycles. Inject, inject. Don't look at it for too long. Now, let's put one Zergling at the third and one outside the base. Let's build another Overlord and put it out there to the left. That'll be all of our queens, Overlords out front the base done. And we're just droning, we're droning, we're droning. And guess what, guys? We're just tapping the keys. Drones, 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 drones. Why? Because there's nothing else going on. There's nothing to do. 36 supplies, so let's build a roach farm. And, ooh, lava popped. It's tempting to spend that lava, but remember, inject, inject, and then spend the lava. Okay? Don't get lazy. Now, it's almost 3:45, so I'm going to queue this back and forth, because remember, we like 3:45 to go through. So I'm just delaying it by a few seconds, so it automatically goes through. But the idea is that I'm giving the order ahead of time. And this is the last Overlord I've just built. So now we have all the Overlords rallied out to create that ring of vision around our base, guys. Inject, inject, build drones, build Overlords, and they're clicking to the back. What do we see? We see a robo, a gateway, and we're going to build an extra Overlord as well. So that's a lot of gateways, guys. That's like 4, 5, 6 gateways. Oh my god. Okay, so I'm going to start my transition now because I've already built all the drones for it anyway. And notice I'm changing this rally point back. But even if I'm not full of drones, I'm already building roaches, guys. Do you know why I'm building roaches? Because we just saw a shitload of gateways. A shitload of gateways is a clear sign of potential greed from our opponent. We're going to use our Overlord outside the base. Inject, inject, build roaches. Let's put these guys on gas. Put these guys on gas. Put them on gas. And we're going to build more Overlords. You want to make sure you never get supply blocked. And what are these Zerglings doing? Well, I just saw a sign of aggression, and I'm worried about getting pushed. So what am I doing? I'm queuing these Zerglings, and you'll see I'm using the minimap. What I'm doing is I'm queuing attack moves right now. So those Zerglings, you can see, are just checking to make sure I'm not being proxied anywhere. Now that it doesn't seem an attack's coming, that's fine. I already reacted safely. We're still anchoring our play with our macro cycle production. A few more drones on this base. And then reselect and build roaches and Overlords, okay? Now, layers finished. Let's make roach speed. And, oh, here's that attack. I don't know how the fuck he got across the map. He must have walked right past me. Let's build lots of Overlords and roaches, and let's pull behind our hatchery. Remember, 101, if you're not ready to fight, pull back, and don't fight. Make more roaches, and okay, he's coming right in, so we're gonna have to fight and pull the drones. We're gonna mineral walk those to get them in front. Inject, inject, build roaches. Move forward, A move. Move forward, A move. Move forward, A move. And we're using the drones as fighters, but now that the fight's won, go back to mining. And oh my god, that was really crazy. That was chaotic. First thing you do after you defend, inject, inject. And let's fix my economy. Build 3 drones, click there. Reselect the hatcheries, build 3 drones. Whoops, click there. And, oh, he's still here. This guy crazy. All right, so let's keep building Overlords and roaches here, but we've already fixed up our economy, so we should be good. So my opponent's committing to a fight, even though he is dead. GG's, because that was basically essentially an all-in attack. So my opponent just did a 26 probe 4-gate, which hit, remember I only killed 1 or 2 probes at the start, at about 5 minutes. And we're in Platinum 2, guys. We're in Platinum 2, but this is such an inefficient attack. And this is the sort of thing you're going to come up against. Because like, man, I died of cheese, people rush me. So first of all, let's see, how did this attack get out of the base? I guess I wasn't watching my map, eh? It must have moved right past the Overlord. I purposely moved this Overlord forward, guys. Check this out. So that I would get a bit of a warning if he came out. Turns out... Oh, so he actually picks up from the prism and flies out of the base and warps in there. That's why we didn't see him leave. So that's very cute. But you'll notice that at least my Ring of Vision saved me, right? He was so secretive with this move out. So I'd already built some safety roaches. And the thing is, should I have been building more or not? Well, let's rewind. Let's hold on a second. Let's go back to my first reaction, which was, remember that scout? So we sent in the scout. We saw a big sign of aggression. Now, as you get better at StarCraft, you'll get more of a game sense, right? But let's talk about a few basic things. I actually didn't process it in the game, but that gas was missing. I didn't even notice that, but that's a big sign of aggression. If your opponent's low on gas, what can anyone build without gases, right? If we think about it, Zerglings, Terran Zealots, Adepts, you know, basic units. In this case, it was just Stalkers off this gas only. So one gas just to make Mass Stalker. Protoss, Terran Marines, right? Maybe Marauders. So if they don't have a lot of gases, that is usually a little bit of a sign of aggression. Lots of production buildings. In this case, tons of gateways. Big sign of aggression. What if there was 2 forges here? And a Twilight Council and a Robo and a Stargate? That's not a sign of aggression. That's a sign of greed. So let's go back. Let's go out to our document. Let's kind of try and understand this, okay? So we're going to start doing a little section in our notes called Replay Analysis, and you guys can follow along here. Replay Analysis. Game versus Vorpals, 4-gate Prism Stalker on 2,000 atmospheres. Okay? And yes, I can spell words good. Thank you. Thank you, Google Doc. So, when we scouted, what did we see? Big signs of aggression. So what was it? It was lots of gates, robo-only tech structure. Now, that's all. Basically, lots of gates very early. Now, that's something which people struggle with, because a lot of people, they start learning these more detailed aspects of scouting, which we're starting to engage with a little bit. And we're going to talk more and more about through Diamond as well. But what is very early? Because I will see people start to engage with this sort of understanding, and then they'll go into a game, and they'll be like, yeah, well, I saw a guy building 8 gateways, so, you know, I figured I was going to die, I have to make units. And I'm like, dude, your opponent has 3 bases filled with workers, 2 forges going, and a Twilight and a Robo. And they're like, yeah, but there's lots of gateways. You said gateways are a sign of aggression. I'm like, yeah, but that's just someone getting the right production for 3 bases. So what is the difference between that scenario that I just listed in my head? Not this game. Use your imagination. 3 full bases, 2 upgrade structures, Twilight Council and Robo and Templar Archives. It's a lot of tech. It's a lot of things you invest in, which takes a while before that can turn into a scary army. If someone puts down a forge, it's many minutes until that boosts up an army's strength and can be turned into something to attack the opponent, right? So from your point of view, the more forges, the more engineering bays, the more evolution chambers, the safer you are in the immediate term. Many minutes down the line, that's going to make their army stronger, right? But it's not going to in the immediate term. And that's kind of the more important thing, is figuring out how good our scouting can be, okay? So if you see a lot of gateways early, well, what does early mean? In this scenario, let's give ourselves a little bit of context. My opponent isn't even fully saturated on 1 base. They've only got 1 gas, 15 workers there, and 7 workers on the natural. This is a total of just 26 probes, which, just for perspective, if someone has a full base, gas and minerals, it's 22 workers. So my opponent effectively only really has a 1.5 base mineral income, right? 1 almost full mineral line and almost half a mineral line. So just under 1.5 minerals and 1 gas. This is super duper aggressive and all in. And these gateways are all finishing up, if you like to use the game timer, about 4 minutes 30 is when they're getting up to 6 gateways, which you might be like, well, 6 gates isn't enough production off 2 base. It's not, but this is not a full 2 bases of economy, is it? This is a very fast, surprising attack. Now, I could break down why this attack is so poorly executed and how my opponent built like 4 pylons before building their extra gateways and had all this supply free. There were mistakes my opponent made. This was not perfectly executed. It is what it is, right? They could have hit this attack way faster, and they probably don't even need to bother with the warp prism. You know, why not just, if you're going to go all in with gateways, why not just hide a pylon and a gateway on the edge of the map and just warp in from there? You're going to hit way faster. But for us as the person who's scouting, it is simply, that's a lot of gateways early. If we got more vision, we would see also no probes building. So that's, as you get really advanced, you start looking for probes building. You're not going to look for that for a long time. For now, all we're looking at is just, hey, I saw gateways, lots of gateways. And what did I do? What was my response, guys? I immediately started building roaches, even though I normally, with the way we've been doing this build order, we've been relying on good map vision And we've only been building units earlier if there's a reason for it. For those of you who are maybe tuning into parts of the Bronze to GM, but not all of it, you might be like, wait a second, aren't you using your beginner Zerg opening? Aren't you meant to make safety units at, I believe it's 44 supply in that build order? Yes, we're not doing that because we're trying to improve our map vision and our reactivity. If our opponent pushes out, we see it, we make units. In this case, we see a big sign of aggression. We go, oh, okay, let's start making units. And I even went and checked for proxies to make sure. I said, there's a lot of gateways. That's really scary if there's a warp prism or a pylon near my base warping units in. Now, I was not at the full 45 workers yet. So I swapped to roach production here in a moment on my next macro cycle, basically. I don't have any lava because I just spent it all. So I still continue. I still get my gases. I still take my lair. I'm still doing my normal things. All we're doing is swapping the drone production over to roaches. So remember, we talked about earlier in this series, the idea of you always want to know what you're producing. All we're doing is we're swapping that track from always building drones to always building roaches right now. Now, we're still building overlords. We just spent all of our lava on roaches. We maybe should have saved one or two, but you'll see we're building more overlords in a moment. Just tapping those overlords to get them out. And you can see I don't quite have 2 bases full. I'm 3 drones short in the main. I was already effectively at 2 bases though, right? Which is great. Now, if I scouted a little bit more and saw this, I would absolutely never build any more drones in this game. Why? Whenever you die to an attack, whenever you struggle with an attack, what do I always get asked? Pig, well, they killed me with the unit. Everyone always says, I died to Immortals. How do I beat Immortals? How do I beat tanks? How do I beat Stalkers? Everyone always tunnel visions on what units are killing them. It doesn't fucking matter outside of what timing that hits. So if you guys ever die to an attack, look at number 1, their probe count, and number 1, their economy. The same way we can benchmark our attack and see how well we're doing with it, guys, we can also benchmark their attack. Okay, 5 minutes 20, my opponent is hitting me with 8 Stalkers, 2 Zealots, and a Warp Prism off 26 probes, and they're at 50 supply. Cool. Okay, that tells us a lot. It tells us it's a 1.5 base all in. And why is that important? It's because no matter how strange or confusing a situation is, you can always boil it back to fundamentals. So what we could boil this back to is say, well, he's on 1.5 base of workers, minerals, but only 1 gas, doesn't even have the extra gases, no forges, no twilight. There's no real tech to this build. I literally could probably have the same economy as him and be okay. But let's stick to a standard idea. Let's say about 8 workers more than your opponent, maybe 10, is usually a safe lead where they're going to have more army, but they've got to come across the map. Your units are popping out closer to home. You've got defender's advantage. You've got queens. You can pull drones into the fight. You should be just fine. Now, in my case, I was already up 18 workers. That's why there was a little bit of that oh shit moment for me when I saw all those gateways coming up so fast, where I started looking around for pylons and that sort of stuff, because I knew I was already at a pretty hefty economy. And if my opponent had that many gateways that early, I used my very advanced game knowledge to kind of have an idea that there weren't that many probes for my opponent, that they were just going hard on army. So I knew that I'd already had such a massive worker advantage, right, that it was a greedy advantage. This wasn't really your standard safe advantage. Now, if you're tight with your macro, it's totally okay. But especially say in Zerg versus Zerg, if you build 20 more workers than your opponent, they flood you with Zerglings. Well, you better have a whole bunch of Banelings or some sort of massive game-changing tech or a solid wall-off, or you've been insanely greedy and you're going to die, right? You don't build 20 more workers, and that's because a Zerg can get across the map so fast with Zerglings. Against a Protoss or a Terran, notice this attack took a little while longer to go, but what have we used 1,000 times, guys? Whenever our opponent attacks us, we're not ready for it, we pull behind the base, pull all our shit, and then we go for it. Now, my drones did get stuck there behind the minerals for a bit, which is a bit nasty. So I had to just right-click on the minerals so that they kind of phased through my roaches. And then I used them just as a fighting unit with my army. And I actually lose about 10 workers here, guys. And in hindsight, I've got so many roaches left, I probably could have defended this without pulling the drones at all. But if you're ever not sure, use the drones to tank. And then the moment you start realizing the fight's totally fine, you can control click those drones and just send them back to mining and let your army clean it up. I'm obviously still way ahead in economy in this scenario, so we're looking good. Now, we spent a long time breaking down that replay because I want to start introducing that concept of Signs of Greed versus Signs of Aggression. And we're straight to Plat 1 in like one game. So this is the ladder in action, guys. It will very quickly level you up if you keep winning your games as I do. It knows to keep giving me harder opponents. So guys, we got ourselves a Zerg vs Terran, which is fun. Just scrolling on up, guys, and seeing what's going on. We are in Plat 1 now, guys. I guess I should put that in the title. The league we're up to for today's stream, as we try to see what's up. Natural, 3rd base, 4th base, 5th base. You notice a little habit I have is I like to use the drag scroll because it's nice and slow and very accurate, just to get my camera locations relatively centered at the start of the game. It's a personal preference thing. I don't recommend it to anyone because it's just something that I happen to start doing. And I don't really know if it's good or not. It's just something I like doing. Using that drag scroll. Hold down my middle mouse button and it allows me. That's the only time I use that. Some pro players use that as well as the edge scrolling to move their map around. But it takes a bunch of getting used to. In the old days, no pros used it, and I'm not sure if any Koreans use it yet, because I know it was the foreigners who actually started doing that initially. Snoot was the first one, who revolutionized a lot of mechanical techniques. He was the first pro to use a set of hotkeys that was similar to the core. He used actually the predecessor to the core, fleet hotkeys. I think he used the alloy setup of fleet hotkeys, which is just a customized setup where he layered his camera locations underneath his keys. Now, obviously that inspired the guys to go and make the core. And so we're just rallying all these drones to the gas. We've got 16 on minerals. So notice if I do that early enough, I can already set my rally points on my natural expansion. How cool is that? We're going to build those 2 Zerglings, send those across the map. Now, because this is a Terran, we might have to deal with a Reaper coming over. And I do hope we start dealing with some really annoying Reaper harass soon. So because I'm going to put this Overlord not as far out as I normally do, so it spots these ledges as well as the front of my base. But these Lings are still just going to go across the map for now, I think, and see what's up. Oh, yeah, let's kill him. So we're going to attack him and then shift right-click to there. Let's queue up my second queen, make more drones. That queen will inject and then go to the natural. And I've also A-moved her to the natural, by the way. So if the Reaper comes in, she will fight it. And that is an Overlord. We're just going to check, hey, did you build an expansion or not? And then go back to the pillar. Keep tapping our production. Hatchery, build drone. Hatchery, build drone. And it looks like my opponent did not build a command center yet. So that's cool. Doesn't matter. Remember, it means nothing. Why does it mean nothing? Because it's only at 3 minutes 30 that we care about checking whether they've expanded or not. Now, we could try to run past. So I'm actually going to sacrifice 1 Zergling, and it's macro cycle time. Injecting drone, 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 drone. That Zergling died, which means he has an extra Marine or 2 out. So I am going to go this way, guys. We're going to go up there and just move that Overlord so it's in vision ahead of time. Now I'm building Overlords. We're going to put 1 here. That guy will move there, and we'll build another one. That one can go there. And hey, we're at 36 supplies, so we might as well get that Roach Warren. Let's build a drone here. Click the egg to replace that one. And, ooh, we'll attack that and then move back to the front. Inject, inject, build drones, and build an Overlord. Ah, so he does have an expansion at 330, so we don't need to react. I lose the Overlord for that, but hey, it did its job. Let's get our other Overlord and sacrifice that through as well. And let's build a few extra Overlords. Because, well, we're friggin' losing guys, aren't we? This is annoying, man. Let's go take my 3rd base. I'm a little lower on supply. And, ooh, what's that, guys? That is a 3rd command center. Big sign of greed. So we absolutely don't need to worry about anything in terms of the aggression. Now, we're changing that rally point. Why? Because it's layer plus 3 gases time. And this way, these drones will resaturate my natural as I go to gas, and these drones will resaturate my main. And those are 2 barracks, guys. So we know it's barracks, looks like Hellions and maybe a Liberator. So guess what, guys? We've seen a starport with no add-on, could be a Liberator. What are we going to do? Well, I think a Spore Crawler would be a good idea. Let's get this guy, becomes our creep queen, build a few more drones for now. Let's put guys on gas. And we're also, now that we're at 48 drones, we're going to start building roaches. And 4:45, let's build spore crawlers. Now that's a general safety timing for spore crawlers that I mentioned earlier in the series. We're also sending one over here to build a spore as soon as that's ready. We also see Hellions, that's fine. We're already building roaches just as part of the build. But look, ooh, our base is oversaturated. So let's rally to our third and let's try to get used to more creep spread. And this is something which I haven't really done yet, guys. Oh, shit. My macro cycle's off kilter because I pulled the queen off. So that's something you might not want to do. That makes things a bit more complicated for myself. If you're not really fast as a player, avoid that at all costs. Anytime you go and pull a queen off injecting, and then your cycles, look, that one's finishing before that, let them sync up again. Don't keep doing it off cycle because it makes StarCraft harder. So I'm actually going to wait on that one. In the meantime, what are we doing, guys? We're just building roaches, building some overlords. Now remember, because my opponent has 3 command centers, I'm going to try and really commit hard and kill him. Uh-oh. So guys, oh, nice little lag spike. It's really easy to panic here and feel like you have to run the drones away. Whenever there's Hellions in your base, unless you can get them out of the base before the Hellions get anywhere near, do not do that. Inject, inject, build more roaches, because they're actually more well spread if you just leave them on the base. Now notice I built 3 drones and just right clicked them on the minerals, built a drone, clicked it on the gas, just to replace them. That mechanic that we keep using. And notice our vision here is giving us a lot of vision of kind of what's going on. Let's put down some more creep. And let's spread. Creep there, 2 tumors there. And 1 more big round of roaches. Now, I want to have an overseer. We always like having an overseer, but especially here as a Zerg player with mass roach, going up against the 3 commands and a Terran, if he has like tanks on the high ground, we're going to want to kill those. Guess what, guys? It's time to add another level of detail. We're going to make ravages, except I'm supply blocked. So we're going to break these rocks down while we wait for the other roaches and the overlords to pop, and then we're gonna make ravages. Inject, inject, inject. Build roaches, and okay, here we go. So we're gonna make ravages. A cool thing before you attack, guys, is if you, with your overseer, drop a changeling and you send that in. I don't know if he has this base or this base, but we're gonna come in from this angle.
Bezos box.
And remember behind this, double Evo chamber Hydroden. We're gonna rally to the 3rd so that we can drone behind this and go Hydras. We're gonna spread a bit of creep, inject, 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 build drones, and let's go for it, guys. So we're gonna try and attack, and it looks like there is a tank there. So notice I'm gonna run up, and I just dropped 3 corrosive biles on it. And other than that, we're just A-moving and trying to overwhelm here. And there is a tank on the high ground. There's 2 tanks on the high ground. So let's grab the overseer. Oh no, he killed my overseer. There's 2 tanks on the high ground. Now he's killing that overlord. So we're just going to send a queen there. So, the tanks on the high ground are scary. Pull back, inject, inject, inject. Build lots of drones. And we can also take the gases. So we can go build drone, go there. What's going on here? Spread some creep, 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 creep. And range, carapace, both Hydra upgrades. This base is a little oversaturated, so we can put him there, put him there. Let's take a 4th base. Now, why? Just because we have a bit of money. He's re-landed this, so let's see if we can make that lift again without going in range of those siege tanks. Notice the tank's shooting me now, but we killed the command center and then we pull back. Because we know we can't really... Oh, if he fights me away from the siege tanks, that's okay. So we are right now in a situation... Whoa, sorry guys, looks like my internet's derping pretty hard. Let's pull... Okay, yeah, if he fights me away, we'll drop some corrosive biles on him. Let's pull back. So we're going to swap into hydro production. If your opponent has tanks in the high ground and you headbutt into it, your roaches don't do well. But you can either zone them out. If I got in there close enough with my overseer, I would have tried to run in and corrosive bile, kill the tanks from the low ground really quickly at the start of that fight, and it would have continued to just be a big committed attack. But the moment my opponent sniped down my overseer, I had no high ground vision. So let's make 2 overseers this time for the next attack, and let's check what's going on. So right now I'm very light on vision. So I'm building 2 Zerglings there, building 2 Zerglings there, building 2 Zerglings there. And look at my map vision. I don't have a lot, so build an overlord, click there. Reselect the hatcheries, build an overlord, click there. Reselect the hatcheries, build an overlord, reselect the hatcheries, build an overlord. So we're actually just building scouting units right now. And behind it, what are we doing, guys? 3 base Roach Hydra. Because remember, that's what we do. And then we follow it with a big 1-1 Roach Hydra timing. We follow the game plan because that gives us efficiency even when we are derping. Even when we run into an opponent who has really good defense. Oh my god. And that's what you have. Let's run away. So Hellions have splash damage. Marines do not. He's going to kill the Hydra Den. So let's build another Hydra Den. We've already A-moved our army. He's going to kill my Roach Warren. That's very annoying. And well done. So we're just going to put guys back on mining now. Put the queen back there. Build a few drones. And you know what? That was annoying. So let's build 3 spore crawlers to make sure that doesn't happen again, hey? And spread a crypt shimmer. Let's make 2-2. Now, I think one of the Hydra upgrades got cancelled. Yeah, it did. Let's keep building Hydras because we still want to prepare for that attack. And oh my god, what is this? Now, we only need 1 Zergling there. We've already got a changeling here. This guy's already taking a 4th base. Oh my gosh. So inject, inject, inject. Build more Hydras, build more Roaches, and let's go win the game. Now remember, we're going to open up these rocks just to get a faster attack route. And not only that, we don't want to attack till that upgrade's done because that gives our Hydras move speed. Once again, what do they do, guys? We drop changelings, we select them, and we go, you move there, and then we deselect or just left click, and we go, you move there. So we're going to move up here. These Zerglings will kill that Marine. He has 2-2 upgrades, so his Marines are pretty damn good. And it's important here to just keep denying bases. If you headbutt into tanks and bio are really, really good versus Roach Hydra. If you catch them all sieged up and everything. But if we come over here, notice we're getting a nice big battle line, and then we attack move. Oh, and look, now he's coming to fight me. Well, guess what? Tanks don't do so well in that scenario. Unfortunately, my Hydra upgrades aren't ready, so we're actually going to pull back. Notice these Hydras are just a bit too slow. Now it kicks in. But we killed a base. What are we going to do, guys? We're going to go right click, shift, left click, run back, remake our control group. So we've just left 1 Roach on that base. And whenever you're attacking an angle and then they're entrenched on that side, a good habit is just shift click your units to the other side of the map. And that's where you're going to find the weak spot usually. Now you might be like, hey, what's the transition from here? If the game does go on... No. There is no transition. If you really want, you can make an infestation pit then a hive to make 3-3. But fuck that noise. Let's just win with Roach Hydra by actually using it well. And look at this habit. Look at what this habit's found us, guys. So many people kill a base and just sit on that side and let the other player expand all the way to the other side of the map. We're not doing that. So let's see what we can do here. We're going to move right in. And we're just kind of A-moving for now because we know there's some tanks back there. So I don't want to move into too many siege tanks. We're just A-moving for now because I feel like my guys will clump up a bit too much if I shove in. But now I'm like boxing the left flank and I'm like, oh, kill the tanks. So we're trying to move those in there now and kill these tanks. We're also going to move these Overseers over there. It looks like the Overseers did allow us to kill the tank on the high ground. Behind this, what am I doing, guys? Using my production. I'm building lots of Hydras. Ooh, so tanks on the high ground. Now that one's hard to reach. And we're going to disengage. It's easy to get carried away, but... oh, no! Ah! He's killing my stuff again. So we've got a lot of guys about to pop out, so that's fine. So we're going to click the medevacs to make sure he can't escape. And we just lost our lair. So let's... what are we doing? Inject, shift, inject, 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 inject. And we're going to... ooh. Take that drone, rebuild the hatchery. And remember, they flew over a spore crawler to get there, or 2. Let's send this Zergling in there. And we will take one of those Zerglings and put it here. And we'll say, hey, do you have any expansion? Look at how many command centers this crazy cat took. Oh my lord. So this is the sort of player, if we gave him a little bit of room to just take these bases, we'd be in a lot of trouble. There'd be planetaries. It'd be really hard to play that. But as long as we keep attacking. Now he had tanks and a planetary. So what we're going to do, guys, is we're going to break those rocks down. And we're going to go out there with half of our army while part of our units come over here. Once again, what do we do while we're getting ready for an attack? Drop lots of changelings. And we're going to just go, hey, what do you have? And now we just attack move 2 sides at once. And these guys need to shove up that ramp. Ooh, I don't like this left angle. That's a bad angle because we know those tanks are there. So he's actually very well defended. So what are we doing? We're pulling back and we're trying to fight on this side. Now there's a tank on that high ground. So this is kind of scary, guys. This is a bit of an awkward engage. Thankfully, I have a shitload of money. Those guys on the left are getting just shredded, which is why we probably should have pulled back from there. But we're moving in between the bases. Kill that, and once again pull back. Now we didn't get the planetary, but we killed a lot of the other infrastructure. What do we need, guys? Overseers. We need those overseers for high ground vision. Let's also rebuild some drones there. We lost a lot of drones, so let's rebuild the drones on that fourth base. Let's also, all in one go, take a fifth. Now we actually accidentally just misplaced that. It's not the end of the world, but we'll fix it. Inject, queue in the injects, queue the injects. Now, what does queuing the injects do? It just means that when one's done, the next will automatically start, and they'll kind of consecutively go. So if you do 4 injects, you've injected that hatchery for the next 2 minutes. You don't need to worry about this in the early stages, but it's just when there's a lull in the action, when you've got map control like this, you're not, no one's in your face. It's just a really good habit to make sure that as you naturally spend more time looking at your army later in the game, your hatcheries handle themselves. So it's a really cool habit for that. And something we'll talk about more is using our creep queens to also do this stuff. Now, where are we missing creep spread, guys? Well, we don't have too much on this. We don't have anything there. So let's spread a few tumors there. Now, you don't want to spread a billion tumors. You just want 1 on each path. Maybe 1 more. No, we've already got 1 on each path on the right. Any more than that, you're just wasting clicks. Inject, inject, inject. Let's grab some drones. And let's go straight on the gases. Build 1 more to go on there. We're at 65 drones, which is enough. Let's build more roaches and more hydras. And my opponent's really showing an ability to survive. So what we're going to do, guys, is a bit of poo. We're going to go shift, hold position. Tell this overlord to poo, shift, hold position. So that our opponent can't get any more bases. And we're also going to go hive so we can get that 3-3 we were talking about before. But all we're going to do is keep looking for new angles. So, how do we look for new angles? Same as always, guys. Changelings, changelings. Just spreading. If we can get changelings inside the main base, that's going to be so good for seeing what's up. Now, thankfully, they do spot some of these buildings. And let's go kill them. So our opponent's trying to defend with just mass bunker, marine tank. And inject, inject, inject. So what are we doing? We know that cliff has been a favorite area. So we're going to send that overseer ahead. Let's get overseer speed, overlord speed. So we have a little bit more flexibility. That tank is a frigging nightmare for us, right? We cannot get that tank. Let's just kill some SCVs. I don't really care about losing a few units to 1 tank. I just don't want to lose too many. So what we're going to do is we'll send 1 roach there. We're going to try and take this rock down and see if we can bust that planetary. Now this is a pretty dangerous maneuver, right? Oi! Hold position. Why is this so dangerous? Because our opponent has clearly built a very well upgraded, very good army. And Roach Hydra is not the most amazing in terms of scaling. But we have enough money for a remax. Oh! Let's try and move, 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 move in, move in, move in. A move. Pull back. That's a lot of bio, so we don't want to fight the planetary. So pull back, and then the bio fights into us. Now we can chase it down. I don't know if there's any more tanks. So just fight away from the siege tanks. So we're trying to do this. We're going to drop some of those. And let's see if we can kill the planetary. So we're going to try and target that, which is a huge high-risk maneuver. I would never advise this. Normally I would advise patience. And what are we doing, guys? We're building more roaches, more hydras. Remember that I have a lot more bases to work from. So it's not any trade's a good trade, but most trades are good trades for me right now. And these guys, I'm just hold positioning to keep them away from the siege tanks. And then as he comes and fights them, I'm going to drop some more changelings, so we're ready. So these guys, we A-moved whenever he fights, but then we tell them to hold position again, because we don't want to be in tank range. So notice we're just killing SCVs. What are we doing? Building hydras? Oh, siege tanks are being annoying. Well done. Let's run our overseers away. So you might look at that and say, well, that wasn't that successful. It was. I killed a base. I killed a lot of workers. He doesn't have too many tanks sieged. What are we going to do, guys? Rotate. Rotate. This is a structure. If you've just forced all the defense to one side, attack the other side. Every single time. Let's replace an overseer. Let's start 3-3 because our upgrades are way behind right now. And let's also take another base, take the gases. He's essentially contained right now. So if we can just keep running in and killing these command centers. Ooh, if you get a base like this, click on the tanks. And now pull back because that tank's too far away. And we're just A-moving. But that's a lot of Marines, so we're going to actually back off and fight the Marines. Because I don't have that many Hydras. We're not actually maxed over here. So we're trying to fight this. And notice I pull back because if I A-move, they keep attacking the planetary. So when he comes forward like that, we disengage. And then we A-move when the Marines are in front. And then we disengage. And we A-move when the Marines are in front. Because otherwise our units are hitting the planetary, which is just getting repaired. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to grab some of our units and we're going to go shift-click on those SCVs. And is this a clean trade? Fuck no, this is nasty as, guys. This is a real nasty engage, but we're doing it this way because we have the map. Queuing some injects again. We're pulling our army back. Remember, pull your army. If you're ever afraid of multitasking, pull your army back to the halfway point. And what do we do? Control click. So you either use this button or you could use, like I said earlier, tilde or something like that. Control click. And this game is not meant to go this long. This game is not meant to go this long. We are playing an aggressive style. This mother trucker is really good at defending, guys. Also, at some point, this hatchery didn't get replaced. So check out how much lava I have. Let's add that to my hotkey. Build a few more overlords, build a few more overseers, and build more roaches and hydras. Now, oh, I just saw a drop on the left. I was about to rotate my army to the left. Why, guys? Because, send one roach there. We saw that for a very good reason. Let's move our queen up there, shall we? I think we'll be able to kill that. Let's see if my hydras can catch it. Oh, hello. Let's click on the medevac. Because we always rotate. We attack one side, then we attack the other side. We attack one side, then we attack the other side. So the opponent has really good macro and defense here. Is doing a really good job. But because they're not actually making any aggressive plays, we do have a bit of a luxury in terms of how much time we have. Now, I don't know, guys, how many tanks there are, so we're going to send an overseer. 1, 2, 3 tanks, a bunch of Marines. I think I've got enough units to take that. There might be more tanks behind it. But let's move in, move. Hey, move! And if we can spread out a little bit, that's super bonus points. And now we're just going to fight that planetary. Remember, box some units, shift click. Box some units, shift click the SCVs. And we do end up managing to break them. But whoa, what a game. What macro from my opponent. Holy shit. Holy crap. That was insane. So, let's go take a look here. Basically, obviously if I made Broodlords is technically a late game counter. Now, why did I not go to Broodlords that game, guys? It's because I wanted to show you how to use Roach Hydra well, even when it's encountering a situation which it doesn't excel in. Tanks and planetaries defending really well. But I showed how we can use structure, set plays, and set rules to kind of rotate between these different angles, right? How we can move in using overseers to send changelings ahead, overseers to spot high ground, and trying to get this stuff. So I really feel like this is a good example of if you're going Broodlords, you've never gone Broodlords before, you're missing an opportunity to use this difficult situation to get better at Roach Hydra first. And that's kind of what I wanted to show you guys. Now, early on, we saw with our scouting. So just to recap the scouting, remember guys, we saw the command center with this overlord, okay? But then we came in with this overlord and we saw the third command center immediately here at 4 minutes. And we went, whoa, that's a super quick third command center. So I immediately knew I was going up against a 3-base player. Now, there's 2 ways you can react from here, right? There's 2 main directions. Number 1, against someone who's being very greedy, is you can be exceptionally all-in and aggressive. Or, number 2, you can be exceptionally greedy, right? How about, for now, we just stick with our build, but we be very aggressive with it. So we take a more aggressive route. So that's what I did. I said, let's not veer off the build. On a strategic level, you could choose and design a branch for when you scout these things where you go, no, I go straight to the Hydras and double upgrades and I hit that giant Roach Hydra attack, but I've been so greedy that it's so powerful and I just kill my opponent. That could be an option here as a reaction. The other one could be, you know what? I only get 2 gases and I build lots of overlords and then I build lots of roaches straight away. and I just go straight across the map with roaches and zerglings and I try to kill. You could do something like that. There's a lot of different ways you could play this out, right? It doesn't really matter as long as you play to the strengths of your strategy. So we went for just a big 2-base roach speed all-in attack. Was it all-in? Well, no, but it was incredibly committed. All-in is a term which we kind of, it's a bit loose. It's probably not the best. Let's just say I went for an incredibly heavily committed roach attack, right? Why was it incredibly heavily committed? Because we knew the opponent had 3 command centers, so he's going to be going up to at least 60 plus workers over time, even if he's not there yet. Whereas I'm stopping at 45 workers and I'm making unupgraded roaches. Now, I didn't know it, but I could assume if he's going 3rd command center, he's probably going double upgrades. He's building lots of different awesome things, tanks, medevacs, bio. So over time, his army is going to get better and better. So there was a lot of onus on me actually doing damage with my roach attack. I needed to do damage to him because if I didn't, he's got 2 upgrades ahead of me. He's up 10 workers plus mules. I was putting myself in a situation where I had to do damage. Now people say, oh, so is that bad or is that good? People always ask these no, it's just, I had to do damage. Is it bad? Is it good? Well, it's good if I do the damage and it's bad if I don't. And there is no set rule. StarCraft is such a dynamic game. You should never look for, well, what is the right way to play? Because people think of the right way as a static thing, but that changes game to game. You only ever have limited information. So you never know in the moment whether you've made an absolutely correct call. It's more about making an educated decision with what you have in front of you. Now, I realized, okay, he might have tanks on the high ground. Let's make some ravages ahead of time. So that was very important. And getting the hang of those is good. There's 2 ways you can use ravages, and we might go into the unit tester and talk about that in a moment. But I was just going bile click, bile click, bile click. So I was hitting the hotkey plus left click, and I was just doing that 3 times in quick succession. So I wasn't using any fancy tricks for biles in this game. It was all really basic, no rapid fire, no holding down the key to toggle it. But these tanks on the high ground defended me, didn't they, guys? So this was something which I recognized very quickly. If I just ran in and his bio runs back, those 2 tanks are going to kill me from the high ground. So I had to make a decision at that point. Okay, we're playing a longer game. Now remember, I was already setting up for it because that is part of the game plan, is already setting up for the next step, right? How did I set up for the next step? As my attack was getting ready to go in, moving across, I went Hydroden, double Evo chamber, and I started droning my 3rd base. So that we introduced this concept in the recently where it was like, hey, let's build a shitload of Roach Ravager. We're going to try to kill our opponent with this attack, but we'll already be droning behind it just so it's not quite as all in. And just so that we're by default getting used to the idea of this attack has a set endpoint, which makes it there's a clear distinction so we don't muddy the waters between we're committing with this army and when do we go to the economy. It's almost kind of predefined. It makes your macro a little bit smoother. So ideally, this overseer would have just been told to move over to that right side so it could spot the ledges. But we ran in, we killed that tank, we killed the bunker very quickly. We start doing some great damage here, right? But then these tanks start shelling in a big way. Now you're going to see, if I click these, you can see they can only reach to there. So we can actually, as long as we don't venture into those zones, we can deny mining on this 3rd base. And this effectively means, hey, you can have your 60 SCVs, but 20 of those don't have anywhere to mine from. So I'm taking up residence here and going back to drone. If you're not comfortable taking up residence, I see a lot of people just leave their army and then it all just kind of goes, oh, the units go, oh, let's chase the orbital, and they all run into tank range and die. Or half their army gets aggroed by the Marines. If you're not confident in your multitasking, what could I have done here? Click that Roach Ravager back further. So you disengage it from the scenario, go home, do your drones, and then you run it back in. It'll only take 2 seconds to run back in, but too many people leave their army and compromise situations while they're doing other things. That's the same idea that I keep saying with don't just leave your army out front when an attack's coming in, pull it behind the hatchery. Give yourself an extra moment to inject, to build more units, to get things together. Disengage from a situation whenever you're in doubt or whenever your attention has to go elsewhere. This is a golden rule of every race, but especially in this sort of situation. And then, yeah, basically I came back in and I actually just clicked on it. I was not expecting to kill the orbital, but I was like, yeah, let's just force him to lift it off again. You know, force our opponent to react and do things. And then I say, okay, I can fight the Marines whenever they're away from the tanks. Now, you could look at this game and say I'm still not in a great position because my opponent still has great upgrades, right? They're actually up almost with 2-2. I don't even have 1-1 ready yet. This is not a great position on paper, but we're just going to keep massing Roach Hydra once we get 3 bases and just play it out from there. And that's essentially what it was. It was, okay, you get 3 bases. What do you do from there? Well, we do what the build tells us to do, which is we make Roaches, we make Hydras, and then we keep making, and then we go for a big attack when 1-1's done. And we just keep making Roach Hydra, and we keep looking for different attacks. And where does our army excel? It excels when we catch our opponent in the open ground. It excels when it's spread out at a big arc or coming in from 2 sides. It's not particularly good at pushing into choke points, which is why you saw me do a lot of very advanced scouting before my pushes, by dropping changelings, sending them ahead, by having overseers to spot the high ground. And that was all pretty advanced stuff. What does 1-1 mean? 1-1 is your upgrades. So 1 attack and 1 armor. 1-1. So we always, and the first one usually refers to the attack, the second one refers to the armor. Now, obviously, you might be like, well, does that mean melee or range? Usually just whatever the army is. So if you're playing Mass Marine, 1-1 is going to refer to the Marine upgrades. If you're playing Mech, it's going to be the tank upgrades. If you're playing Roach Hydra, it's range armor. If you're playing Lingbane, it's melee and armor. So that's essentially what 1-1 means. So the Roach Hydra is going to hang around and just kind of look for angles, right, guys? Look at how many bases he took. I'm telling you, this opponent had great macro, great upgrades. If I let my opponent take these bases for free, that would have been so easy for them. If I attacked into their strongest defensive points, they would have wrecked me. But notice we were always attacking in, and we were always kind of scrolling ahead and going, what am I running into? And if we had these changelings to give vision, it would give me the info to say, hey, those tanks aren't even sieged. Awesome, let's jump on them. Unfortunately, my Hydra move speed wasn't ready yet, so I couldn't actually kill all those units. Otherwise, I probably could have won the game right here. So if I had Hydra move speed here, I think we could have actually killed those tanks, Marines, and maybe even without it, we could have just pushed on top and won. We probably could have won the game there. But I think just killing the base, pull back from the strong position, rotate to the other side, and you'll notice it's this constant act of catching your opponent out of position. People are always like, biotank's too good, tanks are static, they are siege units, they're very hard to move around and set up. Hey, look, it's a planetary. Seems scary when it has tanks and Marines behind it. There's nothing, it died in a second. It did nothing, it killed like 2 roaches. Now I attack in here, and even this seems kind of scary, there's a tank shooting, but I'm maxed out with bank. And at this point, 1 or 2 tanks doesn't scare me off. I have a fudge ton of units. If I had 15 roaches, I would run away from 2 siege tanks probably. But that much Roach Hydra? No. I'm kind of going, look, if 4 tanks are there and they start shelling me, I'll pull back, right? But 1 tank, 2 tank, I don't care. And this is where we started to take some fights which are a little bit harder to gauge, but I was always looking ahead and going, hey, look, even here, if that tank was sieged on the high ground and like 40 Marines stemmed down to support these tanks, I'd get the fuck out of here. Because it's already really hard to get through these choke points to get on top of those tanks. But what I noticed is there was just no support for these tanks. This was just a couple of siege tanks against a maxed out Roach Hydra army with no support. That's partially because they have Marines there, 16 Marines in a drop, and partially because I've been killing all my opponent's shit. So these fights are harder to judge. I could have just as easily rotated back to the left side and looked to deny that command center, and it would have been the easier fight. But I also am aware that if I let my opponent max out on biotank, it's going to get scarier and scarier the bigger their army gets, because their army is better quality than mine, and it's going to rely more and more on me catching them out of position somewhere or another, waiting for them to move out and fight into me. So I was very aware that my composition isn't going to get better with time, right? I ran in and noticed when we got to these fights, the bigger the fights get, I was not controlling my army as one group anymore. Remember what I was doing in these fights. This is really key. Boxing, moving forward is what I started doing over here, and I started grabbing a small section of units. The biggest problem people have is they often micro a giant army like this the same way they would micro like 10 or 12 units. And what you end up doing then is 90% of your army is just running into each other, looking like absolute dog shit. So what are we going to do? Notice I boxed just those units on the left, it looks like. And oh no, actually that was just from a move still. So you can actually see what I select in real time. It's kind of hard. Let's put it on my camera, I guess, so we can actually watch here. So you're going to see in this bottom display bar, we box that left flank, we move that whole left flank forward, and we just move, a move, move, a move, move, a move. And it got the job done. Obviously, it took us a while longer to finish this game, but I think that was cool because our opponent defended quite well and really forced us to do a lot of different things. Big Brother is watching. Wow, we got a lot of achievements that game. Anyway, back to that last game. The opponent, if 8 mutas flew into my opponent's base and I got to bounce them between his bases, then we would have seen, because people were saying he's definitely masters that last game. Other people were saying, no, he's a real plat. Others were saying, look, he does leave some of his games. He should be diamond. Who knows? Who knows? He's somewhere in there. But unless you actually have someone reacting to things, it's very hard to gauge their skill. When someone's just building shit with no real disruption, and I wasn't really disrupting him until the roach attacks, you know, it wasn't that much. And whenever I was attacking, there was always well-positioned defensive tanks. And you'd be like, well, that's a high-level thing. Is it really? I mean, if that's what he does every game, does it actually mean my opponent is some savant? You know, are they actually super high skill just because they know where to put siege tanks? I don't think that alone tells us. What if they die every time the opponent harasses them with oracles or something like that, right? People have very stilted skill sets in StarCraft, so it's just one of those things where, and those of you who are name calling each other and are really upset about this, take a deep breath. It really, people get, I think, a bit too triggered by Smurfs, because remember, guys, in like Smurf Detective, and I've cast people who apparently aren't Smurfs and stuff, who have macro way above their level. Oh, whoops, sorry, we're going to do 17 pool, aren't we? There we go. There's just people with weird skill sets in general. There's also quite a few people I'm pretty convinced play the ladder drunk all the time, because you look at what they're doing and it's kind of crazy. So guys, oh, this is a Terran. Oh, for some reason I thought this was a, oh, I thought this was a Zerg. I guess I misread that screen. Okay. So this Overlord will go here, check the natural, and then go there. We'll get the 17 hatch up, build another drone, get the gas, and then go back to droning. So remember, guys, we rally the first one there to make it 16, and then we go and rally the next ones as we build them onto the gas. So we just need one more drone rallied to the gas. And then we can rally to the natural. Make sure that's centered, it is. Build a queen, and start 2 Zerglings. But anyway, don't call each other names, be nice, guys, and yeah. Oh, that's a very late barracks. Is this a command center first, or is my opponent a baddie? So, the fuck is this?
Thanks for the Bezos bucks.
I'm just gonna fly right through the base. Yeah, it is command center first, okay. Because I was like, what the fuck is this? So, the barracks is meant to be finished before your Overlord gets there. The fact that I got there and it was only like halfway built, that was the big tell there, guys. You don't need to memorize numbers. It's just, they're meant to have like a Reaper coming out as you arrive, essentially. To have the barracks not even finished is wild. So we'll try to send those Zerglings in, see if we can like kill this Marine or something. I don't know. So notice I right click, shift right click. But, okay, we can click on the reactor. And then we'll just run away when the Marine hits us. Okay, so we're just going to put the Zerglings there and there. Back to droning, back to droning. Remember, we wait on the inject because we want to sync these up, guys. And for anyone just tuning in, this is, of course, the beginner opening. Lots of drones. We've got an Overlord there. This Overlord can go... Actually, you know, I kind of put the Overlord in a funny position. Let's not do that. That Overlord there, that Overlord there. Build another Overlord up there, and that's our Ring of Vision. Let's get that Roach Warren up. 36 supply. Now this Overlord I really like just there, so it can see the front of the base. And there's quite a few Marines building, but it's pretty normal. Macro cycle drones. So let's queue our Overlord Scout, shall we? And that's going to try and dodge the zone and then just go straight through. You know what? Actually, I'm going to do it a bit later because my opponent's gone command center first. I don't think they're going to have any interesting tech or anything to see for a while. 44 supply, third base. And we're going to go gas, 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 and layer. So the Overlord's going to come in a bit closer to 4 minutes. Just a slight delay. Does it really matter? No. But also because the Marines are still up there, I just wanted to come in a bit later. Build drones, put on gas. Build drone, put on gas. Take 2, put on gas. Rally everything to the 3rd. And build lots of overlords behind this. And we're going to put overlord on the edge and overlord on the edge so that we can see any air units coming on in. Now that looked like 2 factories, right? Was that actually 2 factories? No, it was the same... Wait, no, I think it's the same factory. It's just been moving around. Just remember that because you saw it in one spot and then you didn't see it again, it can give you the illusion of, oh, there's lots of factories. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. It's easy to trick yourself. Oh, wait, how can he see me? Oh, you put a unit on the high ground. So if I moved a bit further back there, we would have been safer. Okay, guys, so we're building roaches. We're going to make roach speed. And what do? Well, let's Overseer Scout. So that's going to go into the main and then out the arse of the base. I put that on my 2nd army key so I can easily micro it. Macro cycle, inject, build roaches, build overlords, click them to the back. We forgot to get that creep queen. So let's take this queen. Let's make her my creep queen. So she's been co-opted. We're trying to get used to spreading creep a little bit more, aren't we? So let's try and start building her a bit early. Build a few more overlords. Now, because he's building widow mines, we're going to need overseers. So let's build 2 overseers with our roaches, since there's a good chance some of them die. So we're going to get a creep shimmer there, a creep shimmer here, and then a creep shimmer up there. Inject. We don't have another inject available, of course. Building roaches, and we are kind of starved on the money. And it is actually 2 factories. Ah, so it's a mech build, and that's a 3rd command center. So mech in general, it's a lot of tech, means they can't be too aggressive early. But the 3rd command center is definitely a big sign of greed. Now, that there is just bizarre. Our opponent has done a terrible job of building workers this game. So our opponent is not doing a good job of that. We also, I don't think we saw any tanks or anything, right? So I think we might be able to just kill them. And guess what? Well, I've been doing nothing but building roaches. This is my attack timing anyway. But now we're going in with a much more informed decision. Now, Pig, you're fucking macroing really quick. You're absorbing so much information. I can't do all that. I know. Don't worry, you're not meant to, guys. I'm giving you an idea of if I was looking at the information, what I'm thinking as I see it. You don't need all of this. At the back of it, I'm showing you what you can do when you have smooth mechanics and your build is ingrained deep in your brain. Deep in your fucking brain, okay? I know you're not going to be looking at things as much as me, okay? But anyway, let's go in, and we're just going to kill my opponent here. If you want to, you could be super pro, and you can spread units. Now you might be like, oh, we can't shoot up. Doesn't matter. Let's go. We're not going to transition behind it. Yeah, we're just going to be building drones. We'll start the tech a bit later. Move in. Now, there's not that many guys there, so let's get up into the main, and you want to break the wall down. So notice I've left those there, so they just kill dudes automatically. And I guess if we want, we can leave some guys there to just fight the Hellions, and then these guys can go. And you always want to get after the workers wherever possible. Notice those roaches are kind of stuck behind each other. So we're just going to try and get these guys down. My opponent's making stim, which makes no sense. Inject, build drones. And I figure those guys are in annoying enough positions that I don't need to look at them. And I forgot to start my transition before I moved across. Huge mistake! Huge mistake, because now my upgrades and my next attack is going to be so delayed. I'll be like taking my gases and doing all this, and then I'll be kind of like, wait, my upgrades are never going to finish until after I've got this huge Roach Hydra army. And anytime you're having to wait till your army is huge and maxed out, you're giving your opponent more time to get tanks, walls, Psystorms, lurkers, whatever their power units are. My opponent's build was just really nonsense here because they went really fast command centers, but they forgot to build SCVs. So I'm going to show you guys a little tip. Replay analysis is one of the things you want to get better at sooner rather than later. Now, I'm actually going to analyze my opponent's replay, but you can apply the same technique. Go to a corner of the map where nothing distracts you. Bring up the production tab. And this is really good for Protoss and Terran players, so a little tip for you guys, but we can watch my opponent. We're going to go on 4x speed, and all we're watching is the production tab to see how consistent SCV production is. So we're on 4x. So they should probably be building one at a time still because the first orbital's still making. Now they're making double orbitals, but they should be restarting SCVs as soon as that's done. So they should be building 2 SCVs at a time non-stop, and there should be no gaps in that. So it dipped down to 1 for a moment, not too bad. Ooh, and oh, this is a big gap. Remember, we're on 4x speed, guys. Look at how fast these seconds are going by. So my opponent is building a third command center, which is a really big economy build, but they've not floated their expansion to their natural, and they're just not building SCVs from about 3 minutes to about 6 minutes. So the most important part of my opponent's build, building workers to make use of those early command centers, they forgot to do. So my opponent's build made absolutely no sense. They had almost no raw material. I think the 2 Zerglings somehow scared them, and maybe they had a few bad games earlier today. But you can see there's no SCV production, so they've just got nothing going. So my opponent just forgot their basics, and we had infinitely more material than them. I guarantee you that player normally macros a lot better than that. So what made us think we could kill our opponent in that game, guys? We didn't see any tanks, no banshees, nothing that's going to deal with roaches really well. No tanks. There wasn't a wall off on the natural. Mostly, they had Widow Mines and Hellions, neither of which performs that well versus roaches. If you really clump your roaches up, Widow Mines do okay, but just a couple of them, eh. And Hellions do bonus damage to light. They're very good versus Zerglings. They're very bad versus roaches. I think this was a Zerg versus Protoss. So guys, as we are getting towards the top of Platinum, we've really got to start adding more skills, okay? We really need to. I've been focusing a lot on scouting so far. Unfortunately, my opponents are still not harassing me. So I was hoping today we'd get to talk a little bit more about reaction lists and set plays and branches to handle different things, basically mapping out and programming our responses. But my opponents have, for the most part, sat in their corner of the map and done very, very little. So we just haven't had a chance to. And I want you guys to call me out in chat. If people do some sort of harassment and I react to it rather quickly, and I'm sure it's been happening, I'm just not processing it because it's so automatic for me. Remind me in chat, Pig, remember the drop. Remember the Zealot attack. Show us how you reacted there. So call me out in chat. Remember, this is a collaborative teaching process because let's send a probe to attack him. I do not understand how bronze players, gold players, platinum players see the game. I'm too deep in the rabbit warren, guys. So we're going to go down here. Now we're going to send another drone, and this drone's just going to go to the third base, okay? So let's build another drone just while we wait here. And I'll see if I can get this expansion, but if he goes for the pylon, which we assume is going to happen, we'll take that, okay? Hey, we don't have to. That's cool. So we can just come back here, back to my main. Hatchery, then gas. Always assume you're going to get blocked and play around that fact, okay, guys? If you do that, it's much less frustrating. So I should have brought the extra drone down faster. So that already is a reaction. Remind me to go over exactly what I did there and what I could have done better in the rewind. First Overlord. It's going to go out here. 1 Overlord there, 1 Overlord here, 1 Overlord there. That's what we're planning for. 2 Zerglings. Oh, we see another probe coming across the map. Okay, let's try and kill that guy if we can. I think he's probably going to check my third base, but we'll keep our eyes on it. He's coming through the middle, so we'll keep an eye on it, okay? See if we can catch him. Queue up another queen straight away, and we keep building drones. Remember, 16 plus 3 means we've already rallied to the natural, and we set the rally points to different sides just so the workers automatically spread out. So we're going to kill him, and then shift click across the map. Overlord sits on the pillar. Inject. Keep tapping those hatcheries to build drones. Link speed, build drones. It's a great way to learn the game is to be more aggressive and interactive with your opponent. And that's something we haven't done too much of yet, beyond, you know, before the roach attack. It's because Zerg doesn't have as many cool kind of harassment tools as their opponents. Let's leave 1 outside, 1 at the third base. We'll put this guy on the army key, so if we get it under attack, we'll put him on hold position as well. Inject, inject, lots of drones. Ooh, we're almost supply block, guys. So notice I'm like frantically like always looking at the supply as we do a macro cycle, build overlords. 2 go there, select 1 goes there. And we're at 36 supply almost. So I always like to grab a drone that's rallying so I don't pull it off minerals if it happens to be there, but it's not worth stressing over, right? That's just a super tiny little, oh, I'm a veteran player who's fucking optimized far too many things in this game, right? It's not quite scouting time yet, but as I said, queue it up ahead of time to make sure we don't forget about it. Don't obsess. It's always better to just do the move even if it's early or queue it up ahead of time. And our last overlord up there. Now let's take our third base. What was that? Ooh, they've got some adepts. Okay, so this is a little dangerous, guys. And we also see Void Rays building. Oh no. So this is all that hard work with our overlords is undone because our opponent has Void Rays. Is it? Actually, maybe, maybe not. Anyway, we know there's some adepts, so we're going to build some Zerglings here for safety because those adepts could ruin our day. So I'm actually building about 20 Zerglings. We're doing that reactively because we're losing map control and map vision right now, okay? And then back to droning. Lair, gas, gas, gas. And remember, change the rally point. Keep building overlords. Now we're going to lose some overlords here. So yeah, let's pull these overlords back. If you see a Void Ray, a Phoenix, a Viking, we're going to go around and notice what are we doing? Shift. We're holding down shift and we're just boxing, boxing, boxing. And then we're clicking them all to the back. Now this kind of sucks because we're not even going to see when that Void Ray comes in. But it is what it is. Now, I wanted to get more queens anyway, so this is a good kind of prompt to make sure I do that. And we've got a lot more drones about to pop out that should replace those. Now, if you're worried, why aren't I building spores? Well, the reason I'm not building spores is because a Void Ray is not really a very good harassment unit. So we don't really need it. I'll build it on the edge because I'm light on queens, but if I had more queens, I wouldn't even bother with it. We're going to start spreading creep, and let's go across the map with our Zerglings. First of all, I'm going to put some Zergling spotters on the edge, and then some in the middle, to see if my opponent is running across the map with Void Rays. The earlier we see that, the better. And this time, guess what, guys? We're going to build an extra queen, an extra queen. Why are we building queens? To deal with the Void Rays. We are going to actually play kind of what we weren't meant to really do till Diamond. And that is, we're building extra queens, and not just that, guys. Oh, send those queens to deal with this oracle. We are also going to drone our third. And I know this is kind of wild. We'll build a spore in each base now that we know there's oracles out. And we're rebuilding queens for each base to be our injecting queen. And this means we go straight to the next step. We start roach speed. We can start some roaches. But we're not going to go for the roach attack because we know our opponent has Void Rays. So we're going to actually go straight to double Evo Hydra Den. I should have boxed all 3 drones to do that in one go instead of having to reselect. That was inefficient. And we're droning. Also, guess what? My Zerglings probably could have done some stuff in the meantime. Right? We maybe even could have denied our opponent's base, but we're just taking it a bit slow. That's a bunch of sentries and adepts, which tells me my opponent's not going mass air. Let's confirm. This Overseer is going to go in. We already see a robo, but it's going to check all the production. So this actually looks like it is probably... And, ooh, my roaches are under attack. Let's pull back with my army, and let's just put a few more Zergling spotters out there, just to make sure we see what's up. Inject, inject, inject. One more round of drones. It's a half round of drones, because we're already up on 3 bases, okay? Let's get the upgrades. 1-1, both Hydra upgrades. And notice I don't even hotkey the Hydra Den. I do like to hotkey my Evo chambers, though often I just jump to my main and click them, as you'll notice. However you want to do that, it's up to you. Now, because I know there's only one Void Ray, what did we see? Oh yeah, lots of ground. It's not a ground play at all, an air play at all. I could have massed roaches and killed them. So my life would be a lot easier if I didn't react here. If I just made a lot of roaches and attacked, I'd probably win this game in the easiest possible fashion. We got an under attack warning, but it's just because the Oracle put its vision spell on us, Revelation. Which we can try to move underneath the Oracle. Don't attack it, move under it, and then start attacking all at once. But he noticed, so very well played. So anyways, we're just building a big Roach Hydra army, and we're gearing up for that 1-1 Roach Hydra all-in. And all we're using to measure when we do this attack is when all those upgrades are ready. And as long as, what's our golden rule? If we've been producing units non-stop, we'll take a 4th because we've got lots of money. If we've been producing units non-stop for a few minutes, then guess what? It's usually a good time to attack. If you can line it up with upgrades, so 70 seconds is when we want to fight. Now that Oracle flies in, a bit of a try-hard there. Now, did we lose our Overseer? I'm trying to find it. Do you know how I found it, guys? I go F2, and I can tab through these. And you can use either tab to go through different unit types, or you can actually press these. Inject, inject, inject. And I'm doing a mixture of roaches and hydras now. Not all hydras, because the roaches are very good tanky units up front. Now I'm actually supply blocked again. Man, roach hydra uses up a lot of supply. So I've been really bad with my production this game, guys, of overlords. We've got 30 seconds, so let's start moving across the map. We're going to spread a little bit of creep. Now remember, we are a move to a staging point. We are not actually going for the attack just yet. because we want to do more macro first. All of our hatcheries rallied to the 4th in case we decide to drone behind this. We're building one more big wave of hydras, and now, oh my god, they're coming out to fight me. And they've got a lot of force fields in there, so that's actually a really good army. So we're going to try to run away for now, especially since Hydra upgrade's not quite done. And if we can spread our units out, that's going to make this army a lot better. But I think my opponent might actually beat me here, guys, because this is not a good composition. So, oh shit. So we're going to run away. Now, we did use up most of our opponent's force fields. Notice we got extra workers there. So all I'm building is roaches now. I've got a lot of hydras. They have high damage, expensive units, but they suck versus colossus. If I can get enough roaches in front of them, they'll do okay. But we've got a giant army. They've got splash damage. So I am stealing those guys onto Control Group 2. Control Group 1's falling back. Control Group 2 is getting ready to flank. Run! Keep building roaches. Now notice this army is coming in from behind. And we're actually going to get super advanced with this split? No, no we aren't. Now an F2, A move. And if I want to, I can box sections of the units. And what are we going to do? We're going to grab our whole army back onto one. Inject, inject, inject. We're counterattacking across the map, trying to take advantage of the fact that they are out of energy right now. Now, we still want to see what we're going into. And, okay. So guys, let's keep the army split. That army will go in there, and this army will come in from behind. So that army pulls back while the other army goes in. And if we can kill the shield batteries first, that would be nice. And we're going to move these guys in. Those guys are going to pull back. This army's going to withdraw because he's split his army quite well. Click the shield battery always. And what are we going to do? Inject, inject, inject. We've told this army to go all the way home. And all we're doing is building roaches, hydras. We've got extra lava there that we can't build off our control group anymore. And these guys we've just kind of left to their devices to die. But they killed a lot of probes, which is cool. And we're just going to try and focus fire any units just to make sure they kill some stuff before they die. And what are we doing behind this, guys? I never started 2-2, which is a bit of a bummer. And let's try and put some guys on gas, take the extra guys.
Mineral field depleted.
And we've got a bit of extra lava, so we're queuing up injects. I don't know what these guys are doing here. I'm building mostly roaches now, because the opponent still is only building Stalker Colossus. So as long as I've got a good pack of hydras for firepower, that's going to be it. Now, because the army is a bit smaller, I'm actually just going to focus on a one-directional fight this time. It's also hard to get enough time to spread out here. So let's just try and fight. I think I've got enough roaches in front that we can defeat this army. But by golly, this was a little nasty. Now, whenever you're in this situation, sometimes once the army's small enough, just moving on top, our classic roach micro, and then focus firing is really good if they try to recall like that. Inject, inject, inject. Build roaches, build hydras. And this is kind of cool because if I wasn't playing all this advanced engagements, I would be totally dead. This player played really well, their composition was good versus mine, and I missed my roach timing. I made this game harder than it needed to be. So many people are going to go, oh, you wouldn't have won with that. I know, I wouldn't have. Let's go back though and look at what made this game so hard for me. This was not Roach Hydra is bad. This was, I let my opponent get away with murder. So I was trying to show you guys, hey, my opponent's building Void Rays and talk you through a response. If I was actually being a good, studious player, these Zerglings would have ran in the moment I made them and actually checked what was happening. And if those Zerglings ran across, guess what? That's an okay position with the Adepts, but it's good enough to get us around. My opponent's Warp Gate is ridiculously late. So if we could have actually got half our Zerglings hitting the pylon, the other half killing the Adepts. And we would have, if not denied the third, made it much harder for our opponent, who's doing nothing but building probes right now. And then we also, if we were more active with our units, or if we kind of scouted a bit earlier and realized what was up, we could have realized he's not massing Void Rays and Roaches is still a good idea. Now, you know, like, that's all super advanced. Wait. Okay. What about the most basic solution to my opponent? what if I did my normal build with no variations and I attacked at, I don't know, what time do we normally attack? 6 minutes? Is it 6 minutes, guys, normally? Obviously, I've delayed it for the Zerglings this game, so my roach speed's going to be pretty damn late because I wasn't planning to do a roach attack, so I wasn't prioritizing that. I was going more queens. But if we attacked at, let's say even 6:30, let's say 7 minutes with, what do we normally attack with, about 40 roaches with roach speed? Let's go to 7 minutes and say, what does my opponent actually have to defend, even at 7 minutes, which is the absolute latest I'd be attacking? Hello? 5 adepts, which does nothing versus roaches. Sentries, which, well, they can buy a bit of time. 2 stalkers, a cannon, and a shield battery. Not to mention the natural has 1 stalker. There's a Colossus halfway done, does nothing versus Roach Ravager. There's 1 Voidray, which can very slowly clear a Roach army. Oh, my opponent has been ridiculously greedy, doing an almost pro gamer level of build order here, and I let them get away with it. If I simply did my normal roach attack, I would have killed them because they are not tight enough on their build to defend a solid ground attack. So if I had actually just attacked with roach speed, this would have been a very easy cleanup and victory, and I could have gone Hydras behind it. It wouldn't have needed to be a kill move, but instead we let our opponent get a really smooth transition upwards past this danger zone, which Protoss players often have a danger zone in their build where they're very light on units and then all their production and upgrades kick in and their army explodes. And you're going to see my opponent's starting to get past that zone. 7:30, already looking a bit more fearsome, right? A lot more stalkers, a Colossus. Soon there's going to be a second Colossus. This army started to blossom. It started to get way better, right? So I gave my opponent that huge window. 73 probes. This player went insanely greedy, and I didn't harass them. I built 20 Zerglings for defense. I didn't even use the Zerglings to harass. Any harassment or any committed ground attack into my macro would have put me in a much better position. Now, sometimes you don't choose right or you misread, and that's fine, right? But I want you guys to understand you should not have to engage as well as I did in this game and make as good army decisions to win this. This was me not punishing a greedy player, and I remember I played ridiculously safe because my build has a very late third just by default, so I'm not aiming towards that. I built 20 Zerglings and 6 roaches before droning my third at all. I was behind on economy. I was equal on army supply. Actually, yeah, about equal with Roach Hydra, which is terrible. So the thing here is, though, I realized that this doesn't have a lot. This is a great army for shredding Hydras, not as good versus roaches. So I swapped into mostly roaches and tried to keep my Hydras alive in each battle. And then we did our splitting the army. Now, for those of you who haven't watched the previous Bronze to GMs, remember we use Alt to split our army into 2 groups. This sort of army is all about cutting you off with force fields so your armies butt up against it and using its superior range to take you down. So we split the army off. Half of it just goes around and we take it out. So you just go around, half the army to one side, half the army to the other, and it works out. Thank you very much, guys, for the love. Really appreciate the subs. So we just needed to make sure we don't just engage with one side, we get on both sides of it, and then you can either go 1A, 2A, so attack move with one side, attack move with the other, or you can just F2A move, which is what I ended up doing here. And that was a really good recall from my opponent, so hats off to them. Fantastic recall. I did click on a Colossus to make sure I killed it, and I tried to immediately counterattack because I knew they lost a lot of sentries, their energy was low, and I was like, I still got a big army, let's try and capitalize on it. But what's interesting is if I attacked from one side here, I think I'm convinced I would have got my ass kicked. My opponent did a pretty good defense. And oh my god, they left a stalker on hold position in their walls. They left a lot of units trapped there. So I realized, like, look, this player's already up front defending a 4th. Let's just do the old 1-2. Now, how does this work, guys? It's you send both in, and there is a moment here where you're a little bit more like, oh fuck, what do I watch? Whatever goes in first is what you watch. I see the armies here, I confirm, and I immediately click this army there and then way back over there. So I disengage and then I double tap number 3 to focus on this army, right? Let's slow this down and watch it on a little bit slower than actual game speed so you guys can see. And let's lock that back on my camera. There we go. So I pull those guys back. I see his arm, and then I go in here and I'm like, okay, cool, let's focus on these guys. Now I should have probably shift clicked the shield batteries just to make sure they go down, because otherwise battery overcharge is always going to cause you problems. But for now, we were just trying to kind of move in and get everything in range and just A-move it. And I'd A-move these guys back in on my minimap without even looking at them. I'd said, oh yeah, he'll be sending his whole army to defend this. Let's move these guys. And I was effing shocked that a player in Platinum or Diamond split his army. I was so surprised that these units encountered his army, because I imagined his whole army would be down here coming to deal with these guys. So this really surprised me, guys. I was shocked. I was like, whoa. And I did have to just get them out of there. Just pull the left side back. But because he hasn't pulled down there, that right side is doing way more damage than I thought. I just pull back the left side of the army completely. And I say, well, these guys just killed a base of workers, killed a bunch of infrastructure. Let's go back to macroing and continue doing, the next step of the build and see what we can do. So the split army, whenever you're running into an army that can kind of excel against you with longer range, force fields, splash damage, attacking into one angle is almost always really bad. So in general, it's a very good idea to just split your army in two once you get past about 140, 150 supply, and just come in either from two angles on the same target so they're pre-spread, or you want to try and these guys attack one side, they distract, make sure the army comes over there, and then the other side goes in, and that's the side you kind of almost sacrifice to just do a ton of damage. Really fun to do the old 1-2 pressure. Very well played by my opponent, though. And that is going to finish Platinum League. We're into Diamond. Before we finish, though, people are saying, reactions! Let's talk through some little reactions here and there. Sure thing. Great idea to finish up, guys. Well, yeah. I had good Overlord vision, right, at the start. Now, you could argue, once I see the Void Ray, it's probably a good idea to just build a Spore in each base if I'm going to pull these Overlords back. If I left the Overlords out there, guys, and that's kind of a question. My opponent's Void Ray kind of hung out on his side of the map. So I actually could have kept that Overlord vision, and it would have been worth it. So it's up to you. It's kind of cost-benefit analysis. Do you guys prefer having the Ring of Vision up? If most of the time people don't clear them up, even when they build a Void Ray, leave the Overlords out there. Get away with it until you're getting punished. Go fucking for it. Go for it, guys. Okay? Yeah. That's essentially it. If you see it coming, cool. You can move your queens to respond. If you've got at least 2 queens in a mineral line, you're fine. But if we wanted to be a little bit safer against the follow-up Oracle, we could have just thrown down spores, right? Now, let's actually look at how I responded once I saw that it was an Oracle. Let's say I didn't know there was even a Stargate till now, which I was kind of playing that way. Basically, I just A-moved my queens, and then I said, okay, now I know there's an Oracle on the map, let's drop a Spore in each base. So I put a Spore in the natural and a Spore in the third. There's already one in the main because I built that earlier. But that's really, really basic with the Oracle. Now, what if an Oracle flies into a mineral line with only 1 queen, though? That's a little bit different. So let's go out to our document. Set play, Oracle flies into mineral line. And I'll show you guys this in a second. Let's go. Okay, so A-move queens to defend, right? If no Spore, pull drones away in direction of queens or anti-air, right? Try to just run them away. Shift them back to minerals so they automatically return. Drop a Spore in each base. This costs a lot of minerals. Delay tech gases if necessary to replace drone losses. 3 drones died becoming spores, plus whatever dies to the Overlord. So that's like a real advanced note there. This is not really part of a basic noob set play, but if you were, say, playing against someone who's playing Mutalisks and you have to build like 8 Spore Crawlers across all of your bases, whew, 8 drones, not to mention the 75 minerals that is each drone. That's gonna F your unit up, guys. It costs a lot of minerals. Delays the tech, right? So it costs a lot of minerals to do that. Okay, fair enough. That's something you gotta remember. If you guys are ever dealing with air harass, so this here is a really detailed understanding of how this set play, this little reaction, this little branch in our play has big flow-on effects. Really big flow-on effects, doesn't it? So that's something you've got to remember. And depending on how big the adjustment is, it can be massive, right? What was the other one,
Thanks
guys?
for the Bezos box.
Set play, Adepts coming, right? 2 Adepts killed my spotting lings, right? So they could be diving across the map. So what did I do, guys? I built 20 lings. That was a little bit much. So what are we going to do in response to that? Let's say we build, I don't know, 14 Zerglings and clean them up. Reset map vision with the lings. Okay, cool. That's a set play. That's really basic. Wait. No, that's 7 less drones than you would have had. So just keep in mind. Keep in mind, we can say you're 7 drones behind. Now, for different players, they fall into different problems because they're 7 drones behind. Some people get too focused on the supply count and they look in game and they're like, but it's 40 supply. I always do the thing at 45, 45 supply. But they might actually not have the money to it because they're 7 drones shorter. So this is why we like to, as the build goes on, be a little bit more relational and a little bit more based off where your drone count is as time goes on. So past this early stage, we want to make sure it's like, hey, when do we start massing roaches and roach speed, guys? Well, it's once we've got 2 bases full of workers. It's not at 50 supply. Because if 15 of that 50 supply is Zerglings, say we built 30 Zerglings this game, we only have 35 drones, we're 10 drones short. So it's important to look at things in terms of where your economy is at, not just, oh, it's this time in the game. I always do this at this time in the game, or I always do this at this supply. Because supply and game timer changes based on what's happened in that game, whereas where your economy is at is always saying, well, I have enough economy to go to the next step. I have enough pieces to do the next thing, and then the next thing. So this is something just to make sure you guys don't get lost in your build orders. The number of players I coach in Diamond and Masters who massively handicap their economy with a certain response, and then they keep rushing their tech at the exact same timing in the game as they would if they hadn't already taken the damage and built the spore crawlers or built the defensive Zerglings. And I go, your economy is totally dicked from where it normally is, and they don't even realize because they're not looking through. In terms of spore positioning, people are asking, well, what about the spore positioning? The reason I put the spore on the edge is that was to defend Void Rays. So the idea was I thought a Void Ray could come in and be annoying, so I put the spore on the edge. Now, if we're defending an Oracle, a Banshee, any sort of harassment unit, normally you want to go just smack, bang, dead in the minerals. A lot of people say, doesn't that delay mining? Only very slightly. Your drones are very efficient at going around it. Just don't put it right against the hatchery, like full square there, blocking all 6 drones from returning. And don't put it a square against the minerals where it can accidentally mine in. It can actually lock in workers in a patch. You'll notice here, it barely interrupts mining, but if they came around the backside of the mineral line, it causes us trouble. The reason I put it on the front is because a Void Ray is not a very mobile harassment unit. I put it a bit further forward because it's going to come in and just pick off the extractor or the gas drones. So this just allows a forward position. If you guys don't want to be super flexible with your spores, by default, 90% of the time, you want to defend most things, just smack bang in the middle is the best position for that spore. If you know your opponent's going battle cruisers, spore there. So just cover both sides of the mineral line completely. But do not be putting spores back here. Do not be putting fucking spores over here or over here. Unless you have a very good reason to. If you're up against, say, Mutalisks and you need to create a zone between your bases, you could maybe put a spore there, halfway between your main and natural. You could maybe put a spore here, halfway between your natural and your third, right? So you can create a zone or a kind of corridor that way, but that's only if your opponent's like going Mutalisks and Zerg versus Zerg. You don't really have anything but queens that shoots up. It's not very mobile. If you're just up against a Banshee or a Void Ray or an Oracle, you don't really need to do that. You can always move your spores around to reposition them, but of course they can't shoot while they're doing that, so that's a little dangerous. Okay, let's talk about this. Even something as slight as a probe arriving at your base can totally screw with most players. So guys, I want you to just always go to a point like this, any little thing that throws you off in the game, and this is one of the best things to get a set play for. So at this point, I notice there's a probe there. So pause the replay at that point and go, okay, what is my exact sequence? Down to the tiniest details so that this can become a memorized set play. Too many people are like, just take your third. And they don't, well, how many, do we still take it on 17? Do we send when do we send the drone? Do we attack this probe with the first drone? Define it exactly. Define it exactly, okay, guys? Define it exactly. So what the hell are we going to write there? Let's go back to our notes and let's write it out, and then we can go into the game and we can visualize learning it. And visualizing it is one of the best things we can do. Okay? Okay. So any sort of block. Probe at natural, right? Slash pylon block. He didn't even pylon block, but we were assuming. Always assume you will get blocked. So that's kind of the idea there. Okay, so what do we do? Immediately send 2 drones. One attacks probe, one goes to third base. If pylon goes down, take third, send drone back to mining. If no pylon equals take natural, send drone back to mining. Ooh. That's it. That's really fucking basic. 99% of players I coach, even in Diamond League, will do the demented version of this that's taken acid. Okay? They'll do something like what I just did here, and they won't even realize they're doing anything wrong. Why am I only sending 1 drone? Unless you're just going straight to the third and you're not even trying to attack the probe. If that was my play, that's fine. Then people say, well, what's the right play? There is no right play. There is no right or wrong. It is about having a clear, decisive plan and going for it. That is what StarCraft is about. So, if I just sent that drone straight to the third and took that, and I don't even fight the probe, that's an acceptable plan. But I didn't do that, did I? I started attacking the probe, but now I'm almost at 300 minerals. I don't have a drone at the third. If I sent 2 drones, one attacks, one goes to the third, that would have been a tightly pre-planned, executed set play. Instead, you can tell I'm making shit up on the fly. Making shit up on the fly is bad. It's bad. Now, are we making drones while figuring out the probe situation? I don't think so, because my overlord goes straight to the natural, and check it out. Do we need to, is the question. We've only got 300 minerals at this point. We could already have a drone there, and we could already have this probe almost killed by 300 minerals. So why would we need to? So that's it. You can analyze the situation. If you're consistently noticing that probe early enough, and you can do it. What if you suck at paying attention and you don't notice the probe till 10, 15 seconds after what I do? Then it might make sense to build 2 more drones and do a 19 hatch,
Thanks for the
18
Bezos
gas
bucks.
or something like that. But it all depends on how quick you react and how many mistakes you make and how consistent you are with those. So there will be a reaction that makes a little bit more sense for a player with less minimap awareness than me, right? And it's totally okay to make up your own version of these. It's just about playing to what you can consistently execute and something that makes sense to your brain. And that's the most important thing, is we're starting to get now into the flexible element of StarCraft. This is the end of Platinum. We've just hit Diamond. We need to actually do things now. We need to actually make these little set plays, and we need to adapt them to how well we tend to execute in our games. And we need to start learning all these little reactions to things and memorizing them and whipping them out. So I look at this and say, well, no, it's fine. I got the hatchery down. Was this late? Yes, but that's because I didn't send the drones on time. This was not a perfect response. I could have pulled the 2 drones faster, followed that response, could have stayed 17 supply. It would have been perfect. Perfect. It might be niche, but what happens if they decide to pylon the natural and the third? Says Resolve. Do 2 drones attack the pylon at the natural? Cool. This is fucking theory. I like this. This is some theory craft. 2 probes block both bases. This is a Chad maneuver. Now, if someone does that, they are infinitely behind. They've spent so much money. All you need to do is not shit the bed. This is the equivalent of someone in a bar fight smashing a bottle and then slicing their own wrist in front of you and going, yeah, what do you think of that? All you need to do is then not do the same thing. If you can avoid finding a brick wall and headbutting it, you're ahead. Most players, you go, no, I can't take a base. Well, okay. Take a deep fucking breath, first of all, and realize your opponent has sent 2 workers across the map at the start of the game. It's a big part of their economy, and they've built 2 pylons. They can't have a nexus, they can't have a gateway, they can't have anything else going on. They are relying on you screwing up. And you know what? 90% of players will screw up in that scenario and panic and freak out and handicap themselves. You've got to remember, if it feels like your opponent, there's always a rule or a kind of feeling here of my opponent's doing something unfair. If your opponent's doing something unfair, usually they have very little behind it. And if you can just keep doing generically okay things, you are way ahead, right? So, send drones to... Your fourth base is normally just as accessible as your third. Normally you have two options of a third base. Send drone to third base, right? To fourth base, and try to take that. If blocked equals take macro hatch in front of natural. You can still mine, okay, and it gives production. You can add the actual hatch once the pylon's cleared. Sounds crazy, but it's only long distance mining a little bit, and you're just getting more production up, which you need as a Zerg. So what's the other thing we're doing? Well, once we realize these two bases are blocked, not only are we sending the drone, we're also Overlord +1 drone, 4 to 6 lings at the pool finishing. At pool equals 4 to 6 lings plus queen. Clear the pylons. Maybe dive across map to take advantage of their terrible position and do big damage with 6 lings also. So that's an option. It's an advanced one. Clear pylons and get map control is the main option, but you could just dive across the map. But yeah, you can actually, if they do stuff like that, you can just build a hatchery next to it. And you're way ahead. Now, oh, this is such a rare situation. I'm not going to execute this. Well, I'm not going to remember this. It doesn't matter. As long as you build that overlord, that is probably the most important thing, so that you can build 6 lings. When your pool's done, clear it, go back to droning and resume normal build. And that's, I often, with these, I like to add, with such a big thing, resume normal build. Just go back to your normal build. This has been a weird little diversion. Your opponent's probably more behind from this diversion than you are. Unless you've totally shat the bed, like most people, and you never built that overlord. Your lava sits at 3 on the hatchery, and then as your pool's finishing, you build 3 drones, and you supply block yourself. You can't build your queen, which is a very important piece of your production. You can't build your zerglings to get rid of the pylons, and you're fucking supply blocked, and you don't even have a lava to build an overlord. So it's people staring at their drones and going, ah! And what are you doing? What is that? What is that? Ah! That is the panic of you trying to frantically problem solve a situation you've never seen before. And you're gonna fuck it up the first time. Welcome to StarCraft, everybody. You're now in Platinum or Diamond League, and that never stops. You're always going to encounter a new situation, and you're going to shit the bed. The important thing is to open the replay, look at the situation, pause, write down a set play of exact details that make sense, and go, okay, I'm going to try and do that next time. You might not get it perfect, but at least you've got a set play you can go back to, and you can refine, and you can have a plan in the chaos. And even if you make a bunch of mistakes, your opponent's probably making even more than you. So remember, it's just about having some direction and some path. Write out these set plays. Write out all of this sort of stuff. Replay analysis, we've got that there. And then we've got some set plays that we've done. And we're never going to stop coming up with these set plays and reaction lists. Okay, guys? Write them out in detail, and it becomes a sort of code to just put in. Think of when you see soccer players or any sport, American football fans, of course. It's the most play-oriented sport in the entire fucking world, since it's just literally tightly executed plays repeated. That's what you're doing. You're programming these little moments of high execution in the chaos. All right, guys, that's going to finish us up for Plat. Let's go into Diamond.